behalf of India Seatrade, I welcome all our esteemed speakers and participants for this virtual event, Voice of Young Turks in Logistics. It's probably a different name as such, Voice of Young Turks in Logistics. A few weeks back, we had Voice of Ladies in Logistics, and it was a raving hit, I must say. We've had so many positive reviews about it, so many soulful stories by the warrior princesses in the field of logistics. And I had the pleasure and opportunity to be part of that the panel, and it was so beautiful. So we thought, why not have a panel with young Turks? I know it is in a lot of those webinars or those seminars that we have in logistics, it's mostly male dominated, but we just saw during Voice of Ladies in Logistics that we do have a lot of women in this field who are so successful as well. So we thought, let's have a separate session for the young Turks in the field of logistics. Conceptualized by India Seatrade, this is a first of its kind event in terms of introducing young, smart, shall I say handsome people in the logistics industry as speakers in this forum. Yes, Voice of Young Turks in Logistics is a unique platform that brings together various young achievers in the logistics industry onto a single platform to share their views and experiences. The theme for this special event, Logistics from Gen X Perspective. So it's an interesting one, and we have a lot of young and fresh views that's coming into this platform, in this forum. And I'm sure our listeners who are listening live with us right now will have a lot of takeaways from this session, because it's not the age-old concepts. Of course, they stand their merit, but it is important to have fresh views, fresh thoughts coming into any industry for that matter, and today specifically in logistics. As almost all of the panelists are first-time speakers, it will be interesting to hear their perspective and insights into the various dimensions of the logistics industry. I hope this is a great beginning and a great start for all of you, whoever it is that they're having the first opportunity as a speaker. The discussions will focus on the ongoing changes, including the innovation in the logistics business model. It is to understand the fresh perspectives from the next generation leaders on the running logistics business and achieving operational excellence. We trust that 2021 will be the year of recovery from the pandemic, and hopefully this event and the event that I mentioned earlier, the Voice of Ladies in Logistics, will return next year in a physical format, in a single day event, probably in a lavish and a grand atmosphere there'll be applause inside the hall. But for now, it's all going to be in your imagination, and we'll make do with what we have. We extend a heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Umesh V. Nenwani, Director, Vansh Logistics, Mr. Rohit Hegde, Managing Director of KSH District Limited, Mr. Rohit Bajaj, CEO and MD of Segal Group of Companies, Dr. Vishlal Bison, Managing Director of Landmark CFS, and Mr. Rahul Modi, Managing Director of Pushpak Logistics Solutions, for supporting and endorsing this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to welcome the chairman of India Seatrade, Shri K. Mohandas, to welcome the panelists and deliver his opening remarks. Mr. K. Mohandas, I'm sure all of us know about him, but I really need to say something about him because it is my duty to welcome him in no less way than that. Mr. K. Mohandas, a 1974 batch IAS officer, served as a secretary in Ministry of Shipping at the Government of India from 2009 to 2012 and secretary in the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs from 2008-9. He has an illustrious career holding key positions in the central government and Kerala state government. Currently, he is chairman of 11th Pay Commission to submit recommendations for the revision of pay scales of Kerala government employees and teachers. So, ladies, lady, I guess I'm the only lady here, but gentlemen, let's welcome our very own, most respected Mr. K. Mohandas. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Deepa. I believe my role is confined to welcoming the young guests and maybe giving some opening remarks. From the way you, Deepa, described the speakers, I don't fit in because young, smart, and handsome were the expressions you used, and I don't belong to that group. I have no claim of being a young Turk, although, of course, like all old men, I'd be happy to say that my heart is young. So that's a standard thing which all old men would like to say, in spite of the biological reality that the heart is older than you, because the heart is there even before you come out of your mother's womb. So anyway, now I've been part of logistics related events for the last several years, and everywhere the issues have been similar. The speakers, it's always the same set of same predictable set of speakers addressing the meetings. Uh, but then I'm not belittling that, because we have uh, very well studied, experienced persons in the logistics sector who come out with wonderful ideas. And India Seatrade has been successful in uh, obtaining the presence of key government officials also, so that the most important player in the logistics sector is the regulator himself, the government. So getting the government players on board has also been a very, very useful part of the India Seatrade events. The issues are, of course, well known. I mean, I don't have to list out the issues which we have traditionally discussed. As I mentioned again, government regulations, taxation and related issues, issues of infrastructure, whether it is port or highways or whatever it is, warehousing related issues. And now, when we speak about tax, the costs, the fuel costs, which are showing no sign of coming down, shortage of skilled personnel, which again is a part of the or is a result of our educational system. The usual financial problems like shortage of working capital, inadequate understanding by the banks of the problems of the sector, like that. The issues that we normally discuss are standard. Uh, when we have the young speakers, certainly the tone will definitely be different, because the speakers here were born in an era which is a generation separated from the era in which their parents were born. So obviously, you were born in a different world. Your outlook is different, and your approach to issues will be different. The level of dynamism, energy, and confidence that you have definitely will be different from that which the the older generation has. Definitely, when at the same time you lack experience, your knowledge is probably limited, because knowledge also plays a part, experience plays a part. But then it's a big disadvantage, big advantage that you are not uh, uh, tied down by experience, because I mean, you are fresh, your minds are fresh. I mean, you have the freedom to think differently, and that thinking can definitely bring out wonders. So if we, I mean, the old timers look at what we could expect from the youngsters, I think the single biggest word would be change. Change using technology, because the use of technology, of course, doesn't have much to do with age, but technology comes naturally to the younger generation, because for the older generation, uh, it comes artificially, because it has to be uh, uh, newly picked up, newly absorbed by the older generation. But technology is something which should come naturally to the uh, the to the new generation, and that should help them in every aspect of their activity, starting with I mean, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is production, whether it is marketing, selling, uh, in all these things. I mean, in all market research, in any aspect of business activity, I'm sure the the role of technology, the increasing role of technology, cannot be overemphasized. So, young men, I mean, today is all yours. I'm sure we will hear something different from what we have been hearing all these years, and uh, I'm sure I look forward to a good number of intelligent takeaways from today's event. And even if some of them are not that intelligent, that even that would be welcome, because we want a different thinking. We want we want a revolutionary thinking, and it's only with such thinking that you can change, instead of the usual complainant style. Let's think differently. Let's become a participant in the whole process of the development of the logistics sector. And so, young man, it's all yours, and I'm sure Deepa will take care of the events of the afternoon. She has been doing it very, very competently in the previous events, and
Thank you.
I would certainly be withdrawing to the back row and watching from there. So, wish the event all the best. So, Deepa, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, gentlemen, if we were in a hall, we would be clapping our hands and we would be giving a loud round of applause. I don't think anything should stop us from doing that even now. So, can you unmute yourself and give Shri Mohandas and, of course, ourselves a big round of applause, please? All right. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful welcome address. Once again, welcome all of you to the Voice of Young Turks in Logistics, organized by India Seatrade. Well, we have a lot of them participating in this event and they're watching us live. I'm assuming we have more than 600 people already viewing this event, and that's not a small number. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And well, I request all the participants who are viewing us live right now to send in your queries on the chat box that you can see, indicating to whom this question is directed to, and we will be taking it towards the end of the session. All right. So do not stop yourself from asking questions, but it would be very helpful if you can indicate who should address that question so that we can save time and take it and all of that. Okay. So due to the constraint of time, I shall keep my introductions short and I'm going to begin with this session. I would like to invite first Mr. Chirag Katira, Secretary General, All India Motor Transport Congress, AIMTC. Chirag Katira is the director of SNGT Group of Companies, which is a leading player in transportation, construction, warehousing, cargo cabs, and courier service. He is involved with SNGT since 2012 in strategic development at BOD level and represents the company at various forums, associations, and policy meeting. And he's going to be talking to us today on the topic, where is road transport headed, given the challenges posed by pollution concerns and global shift to green logistics. Extremely significant topic, and we're looking forward to some really fresh thoughts there. Over to Mr. Chirag Katira.
Thank you, Deepaji, and thank you, Mohandas, sir. It was insightful what you said, and we learned a lot. And thank you, Deepaji, for giving such a good introduction about me. And again, good afternoon, my friends. I'm Chirag Katira, and as Deepaji gave introduction, I'm a General Secretary of Maharashtra of All India Motor Transport. And now I would like to start that about green logistics. So go green is must, and we are seeing it everywhere. Like we all have to participate in saving the environment. And again, this is a global subject. It's not only us who are talking about. The whole world is talking about go green. And today, I think somewhere we have to adapt it. Not today, but sometimes, like maybe soon we all have to go on that platform, and we all have to shift to go green. And today, as we are seeing the pollution, so according to the few data I have, industrial pollution shares 51% in the air pollution, and where vehicle pollution consists of 27 percentage. 27 percentage pollution is caused because of vehicles. And in India, we have around 3 crore passenger vehicles, and we have 1 crore commercial vehicles, and out of which 70% are functional. And out of total that 70%, like the vehicles which are on the road, so approximately 70 lakh trucks are running on the road, and which are which are causing 27 percentage of the total air pollution, which shares participates in the air pollution. And so we are seeing a lot of improvement government is doing. Government recently bought BS6 technology, and it's also said that okay, we can actually breathe from the silencer of BS6 vehicles, and that the BS6 the what air it comes out of the silencer, it's better than Delhi air. That's what it said. And government is doing a lot of good things, and again, the the buses in Nagpur are like working on methane gas, and e-trucks are coming, electric vehicles are coming, and a lot of good things are happening. Scrapping policy is coming, and as we are seeing, a lot of good things are happening. But along with this thing, it's coming with a lot of pros and cons. There is a con of all these things, as government has come up with a BS6 policy. But when we are seeing with BS6, the prices of truck has already increased by 15 to 20%. Where we transporters are working for a wafer thin margin, you can see we hardly make 1,000 2,000 rupees from a single delivery. And where this the freight sorry the truck cost is increasing by 20%. And we all like transporters have committed to our customers, and we have not got raise in the freight in last 3 years. So now when this the scrapping policy is coming in the picture, according to our figure, 30 lakh trucks are going to get scrapped. 30 lakh trucks are going to get scrapped. So this 30 lakh people are going to lose their jobs. And with this 30 lakh people, around 2.5 crore people are attached with them. And even the people like the garages and the mechanic working in the garages, then again the trader, the tire, the people, you can say oil marketing companies, then tire people, and a lot of people are going to lose this business of 30 lakh trucks. And somewhere we don't have any solution to this. Government has not given any solution to what is going to happen to these 30 lakh people who are going to lose their job. So that's what I'm saying. Technology, going green is a very good subject, and we all are talking about it. But do we have concrete plan? Government doesn't have any concrete idea. Okay, what is going to happen when these trucks are going to get scrapped, and what will be the next thing, and how they're going to support to the transporters? Government is ready to give subsidy, but will this 5% subsidy will really help us? Where my normal truck is costing me 18 lakh rupees, now with BS6 I'm paying 24 lakh rupees, but my freights is not increasing, and along with that, lot of diesel prices also increasing, and my customers are not ready to revise my freights. Now, if we see, a lot of transporters are dying because of non-increment in the freight charges, and a lot of additional cost is diesel price. And so we all transporters want to support this go green, but we think this when this go green and we are supporting this go green, it's somewhere it's killing the transporters. And government has to come with a concrete plan which would really help us and which would motivate us to support this go green. Because where we are talking about BS6 scrapping policy and a lot of things, but it's coming with a huge cost. And wherever truck cost is increased by 20%, we are getting subsidy of 5% on the scrapping vehicles. So nowhere it's making nowhere the figures are matching to us. And again, we don't have margin, and we all have seen the way the transport industry is suffering right now. Even the finances are giving the numbers where hardly 50% transporters able to pay their EMIs. Rest 50 are on already lying, and they are in some trouble. They're not able to pay their EMIs on time, and they have a lot of different penalties on them. So this is what I want to say. We transporters are ready to support this go green and electric revolution, but somewhere it also has to match the price. And I don't think the government is able to do that, because again, what electric trucks we're expecting it to at least it will be 30% expensive than the normal trucks, 30 to 40%. And do we have enough infrastructure? Again, where a normal passenger car, like I think MG is out with electrical car, so it takes around 40-45 minutes for a single car to get charged, and then you can ride for 400 kilometers. But with is it possible with truck also? And how many electric stations do we have actually? And for example, if truck will be consuming much more power than the normal passenger cars, because it carries a lot of loads like 20 tons, 30 tons. And so even if government is giving all these companies, OEMs are coming with a very good very strong batteries, still it will take at least 2 hours for each truck to get charged. And do we have enough stations? So I think the infra in our country is very weak. So supporting, see, it's very easy to talk about all these initiatives, but it's very difficult on the ground level also to initiate all this. And again, coming to the scrapping policy, how many scrapping yards does our country have? According to my knowledge, we have only 5, and now Mahindra has proposed for more scrapping yards, and still they have not got the approval. So now the policy has been like, the Mr. Nitin Gadkari, our minister, transport minister, has already made the policy that maybe in the coming next year, we have to go, this scrapping policy will be finalized and it will be in the picture. But do we really have that scrapping yards? How many trucks will be scrapped in a day? So we don't have complete picture. The government is starting with all these good initiatives, but nowhere they have any concrete plan to satisfy transporter and to support us and to motivate us. So somewhere I think our infra is not so strong, where all this green logistics or go green will really possible. It's really it's very challenging and very difficult in our country to support these initiatives and really transform and bring a big revolution. And this is what was my point of view regarding this go green logistics and go green.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chirag. It was a very important point that he touched upon. And once again, let me remind, if you have any questions that Chirag needs to specifically answer, please put it up on your chat box saying this question is indicated for Chirag, or just put Chirag's name in front of the question, and you can post the question and we will get him to answer it for you. All right. Thank you so much, Chirag. Was this your first platform? Or have you spoken before?
Yeah, spoken before on a lot of other platforms also.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chirag. Well, we'll move on to our next guest for the day, Mr. Rohit Hegde. Rohit Hegde is the Managing Director of KSH Infra since 2013. He's also the Managing Director of KSH District Parks, which operates an ICD in Palgaon, Pune, with 75,000 TEUs annual throughput. He holds a master's in business administration in finance from Sheffield Hallam University. So today, Mr. Rohit Hegde is with us, and he's going to talk to us about how can district parks improve the competitiveness and efficiencies of India's supply chain. Mr. Rohit Hegde, over to you.
Thanks, Deepa, for this brief introduction. And thank you for having me on this forum and addressing me as a young Turk. I mean, I don't imagine that I am that young as the rest of the panel here, but thank you very much. So in this discussion, I just want to give a brief introduction on our organization and some of the logistics infrastructure initiatives that we are taking up across India, and not really talk too much about our third-party logistics and ICD business, but focus primarily on the infra segment. And so just to give you a background, I mean, we are, we've been in the infra space since 2013. Industrial and logistics park in Pune, in Chakan area, which is a highly industrialized market. And over the last 5 years, we've attracted investment from various large funds like Pacific Century Group from Hong Kong, Morgan Stanley from the United States, Mapletree from Singapore. And we've been fairly active in infra development across the Pune market, and we've been primarily looking at 4 large markets in India, where we're thinking of expanding and trying to get to a 10 million square feet kind of footprint. So, when we are looking at infra segment in particular, the area that we are really truly trying to, address right now is the big cost that India is incurring on logistics. Right now, roughly our cost is about 14%, and if you look at any global average, it's about 7 or 8%. So for India to really get up there and get competitive in terms of manufacturing or supply chain, or just about any international trade, just any of these segments, we really need to be focusing on trying to bring supply chain efficiency and actually trying to bring down our logistics cost and trying to make it more competitive. So when we are looking at infra projects and where we are targeting them, some of the areas that we are looking are, we are primarily looking at areas which are based somewhere on the golden quadrilateral or close to industrial hubs, along the DFC maybe. These are the key areas. So primarily our big investments have been in Chakan as of now, and we are looking at the NCR market very, very actively. But our main focus is always that it needs to be very close to an industrial hub needs to be very close to any of these big highways which are crisscrossing the entire nation. Having said that, we are also trying to, look at, large scale facilities that can, facilitate e-commerce or, this whole Make in India initiative. A lot of customers that we deal with are primarily from the manufacturing segment. So it's like plug and play infrastructure that we're trying to provide. And there are multiple players in this segment. And I think what really brings about supply chain efficiency for us and, the areas that we focus on are trying to build a high quality infrastructure, trying to help create this whole network effect. And that's not entirely only from us, but it can also be from our competitors. So let's say if we're looking at the NCR region, there might be like 7 or 8 large players who are looking at that area. And the moment you have a lot of large scale infrastructure that's come out, then it kind of creates a network effect, and it can help a lot of large industries come in and set up their make large investments and start up their entire manufacturing activity in a very, very short time. And another thing that we are really focused on is trying to build sustainable products. So we are looking at energy efficiency, anything that's going to reduce your energy costs, like rooftop solar, better ventilation, maybe efficient resource management. We do master planning of our entire parks. So we look at stuff like natural lighting, water management within the park. And if you look at the total warehousing segment as such, India has roughly about 800 million square feet of warehouse, which we are adding about 45 million square feet of new infrastructure. And these are primarily in the big cities like Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, NCR, Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad. These are the 7 or 8 large hubs, but there's also a lot of tier 2 development that's happening right now. And if you look at what's very, very interesting for our segment right now is the type of the quality of investment that's actually come into India. Like, we are talking about large pension funds that have come and put money into India, like, Canadian Pension Fund or the equivalent of Ascendas, someone like a Maple Tree, which is from Singapore. So this kind of money, basically, when it flows into a particular segment, what it does eventually over time is actually makes that entire segment more viable because the cost of money is actually coming down. And I think that we are playing a very key role in that. And, it's going to be very important that large scale investment comes in not only from the end user, but also from developers like us, because that's how the entire country can actually, grow at a much faster pace. And one of the, for the future for us, like, when we look at logistics infrastructure, we look at it in totality. So it should necessarily have rail, sea connectivity, air connectivity, and should have warehousing and industrial stock. By that I mean, like, it needs to have warehousing infrastructure, industrial infrastructure, along with this connectivity, multimodal connectivity. And that's what we are focusing on. And, as we go along this whole journey, and this is still early days for India. So we have a very long view on the Indian market, and we look at it very positively. And for us, like, when we look at India, we're talking about 20 years hence. How would we like the country to look? And in that respect, it's very important that this investment comes from the right channel right now. And some of the other areas that, as an entrepreneur or anybody else who's attending this, chat and is interested in looking at particular segments that we are looking at, some of the sectors that could potentially grow and, become big segments in the future, cold chain infrastructure, for example. If you look at the pharma or the food sector, pharma sector after COVID, I think everybody's realized the importance of cold chain infrastructure. But even if you look at the food supply sector in India, like, we are one of the largest producer of agricultural products, but we have over 40 to 50% wastage. And and if we have good cold chain infrastructure, and if we have good entrepreneurs who are looking at the segment, then in the future could be a lot brighter than it is today. And another big segment, which maybe other developers who are probably interested in getting into this segment is multi-level in-city distribution. A lot of requirement is going to be there for products which are they want to be quick to market. So you could potentially look at those areas. Canvas is right. It's completely open. Any number of people can still enter that. and largely commercial or real estate developers who have large land banks within cities can actually look into getting to these areas. Another, sector for the future is the tier two cities. I think tier two cities are going to see a big growth as well. It's already seeing a big growth, and we could see a lot of infra development in tier two cities as well. So if there's anybody looking into smaller cities, like not everything needs to come to a Mumbai or Pune. They could come up in smaller cities like Indore or Ahmedabad or any of these smaller places as well. Could see potentially large markets in the future. Yeah, and that's about it. If anybody has questions, please send it to the chat box, and I'd be happy to answer.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Rohit Hegde. So we know that we have questions coming in already, but we will save it towards the end so that we can look at the questions that comes in for everyone, and then we'll take them up together. Thank you so much once again for your address. We will move on to our next guest for the day. And he is again another Rohit. He's Mr. Rohit Bajaj. Rohit Bajaj is the Managing Director and CEO of Segal Group, which handles dry bulk chartering, road transportation, vessel agency, and cargo handling. Cabotage services, clearing and forwarding, CHA, and end-to-end logistics services. Yes, he is responsible for the steep growth that the company has witnessed over the past years. And today, Mr. Rohit Bajaj will be talking to us about how is India's coastal bulk movement shaping up, a perspective. So, Mr. Rohit Bajaj, Managing Director and CEO of Segal Group, with us, and he's going to be talking to us about this topic. Mr. Rohit Bajaj, over to you. You are on mute, I believe. Yes.
So, hello everyone, and thanks, Ms. Deepa, for your nice introduction. Thanks to the team India Seatrade for giving me the best opportunity to present on a wonderful topic, that is, how is India's coastal bulk movement shaping up? First of all, we would introduce about a brief about Seagal Group. That Seagal Group is presently into the market, taking challenging jobs, doing difficult segments of the shipping and logistic industries. That is what we are doing since last 7 years. We can surely quote that yes, India's break bulk and mini bulk carriers operators, we are at the best level what we are delivering to India. In West Coast India, we can say that we are major mini bulk carrier operators, and we are providing mini bulk carrier, this multi-modal logistics services via mini bulk carriers, and we are providing this connectivity to minor and major ports of India. This is the best part I could found last 7 years, that many of the coastal movements are happening through Indian sea trade, but the new segments coming up was very less. So we got into the segment of finding the opportunities, that what cargoes can be shifted from road transport to the sea movements. And yes, there we found very many cargoes are there that are moving through road transport, and that can be easily moved through the sea via coastal using the coastal range. Then we are also into the services of cabotage services. There we are into the agreements with major liners like Maersk, CMA, all the big shots of lines. So very few companies are into the segment of the cabotage services. Then we have road transportation. There we do the booking basically for the projected number of vehicles for our clients. And the best part also is coming very soon, that Seagal is launching a warehouse and the industrial park into the area of Mundra Port. Near Mundra Port, there is 6 acres land developed by Seagal Group and another partner with Krishna Group. There we are placing warehouses and industrial park. That would be the best one in Mundra. We can assure that full with the infrastructure and the facilities that has been never launched in Mundra yet. So this was brief about Seagal Group. Coming straight away on the topic, we have divided the topic into basically 4 parts. We will go to the introduction about coastal shipping. I know many of the people must be knowing about coastal, but I would also take them that who doesn't know about what is coastal shipping. So we'll brief about very shortly. Then what are the opportunities into the coastal shipping, and what are the prominent barriers hindering the development of coastal shipping, and how can we resolve that? A small gist about these things we will have, and lastly, we will conclude what all we discussed. So quickly coming to the introduction about coastal shipping, India's ocean freight market, if we speak about, this is broadly into the two segments of inland waterways and shipping. And if we speak about shipping, shipping is basically coastal and overseas. So here we are talking about coastal shipping. We should note that India is consisting more than 14 major ports, around 14 major ports, and more than 200 ports that includes minor, private, and intermediary ports. The India's coastline consists of 7,000 plus kilometers, and we all must be knowing that the majority of ports are within 4 states of India, that is Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. In numbers, Maharashtra is 50 plus, Gujarat is 40 plus, Tamil Nadu is 15 around, and the Karnataka also have around 10 seaports. That is the best part of India. We have the coastal line, and we just need to get into the utilization of this coastal line so that we can see. Likewise, Mr. Chirag Kataria mentioned that there is huge this pollution. Other than that, also we have huge issues about traffic and other segments in India. So let us come out of these traffic issues and many other things, shifting to coastal market. Coming to know that we are only utilizing barely around 6 to 9% of the coastal domestic traffic, whereas there is huge scope. The next point is about opportunities in coastal shipping. Yes, definitely we can transform the transportation services, shifting to the coastal market rather than from coming to the road transport movements. There is a huge scope of, as we mentioned, that 6 to 9% only domestic traffic is utilizing the coastal services. Rather, if we shift to the coastal services, there is a huge scope for coming companies and also the generation to develop the market for coastal segment. Here we also see that rail networks are increasing day by day their stress. Why should we stress them? Let us come to coastal market and reduce the stress of rail networks. The Sagarmala project, which is next initiative what the government took recently, that has been the best part of country, but we are still to utilize the best out of those, because as we mentioned everywhere that we are lacking by infrastructure, we are lacking by the facilities availed by the government. It's a huge country. It's a big projects coming up. We have so many opportunities into the coastal market and into the especially into the bulk segment. So there we have chances to grow and connect these minor ports. Recently, we had also our article in Seatrade and Exim that we have initiated the movements at Karanja port. Likewise, Seagull has took initiative to provide the cargoes to many other minor ports as well, where there was no movement, where there was lack of movement. These are the initiatives what we take when we bring the cargoes which were never into the domestic market, which were never into the sea trade market. We shifted to the sea trade market via providing multimodal logistics. So this is what Seagull has been doing last 7 years, and we see the opportunities. Yes, at the level what Seagull has grown today, the opportunities are very many. There can be many other companies that can take better initiatives than us also, we are sure. So let us join hands for the best opportunities finding from the coastal segments. We can also see that there are the freight market is another way we can have into the coastal segment. The benefits behind the coastal segment is that if we can become the cost effective, we have the timely deliveries, we have many other benefits to shift into the market. Yeah, there are challenges. Definitely, there are risk and challenges for quantity and quality of cargoes that has to be maintained. For that challenges, we are stabilizing ourselves. So anybody else shifting of the cargoes to multimodal must be having that risk behind their mind. But no, undoubtedly, that is huge opportunity for the segment to come up. We will come to the next point was the prominent barriers that are hindering the development of the coastal shipping. Definitely, we as a company today, we are the operators of fleet ships. we are giving businesses towards the port segments by diverting the cargoes to coastal market. We definitely will see ourselves coming up with the next port tie-up or acquisition. So there we see that the hindrances are like government has provided new entrepreneurs and private port entrepreneurs to start new SEZ and EPZs, but there are with the much limited scope and scales. Likewise, today Adani Group is doing, or other few groups are doing. They have got the best opportunities available with them, but there are still less limited scopes available to this side. So government should focus on to the sectors there where the minor ports can be tied up with the private entities. And there we see the limitations of physical infrastructure, likewise the depth constraints and the terminal capacities for pre-berthing timings, imbalance between the major and minor ports. By with this, we just mean to say that we can see that major ports are continuously congested, and the minor ports are starving for the cargo. So why don't we shift the cargo movements towards those sides, utilizing the best technologies, best other sides of the equipments and the infrastructures, providing the development to the side of minor ports. We can do wonders into the segment of coastal and shipping businesses this side, rather than government is like moreover developing the road segment. If we just shift 25% of the development cost to the sea segment, we can develop very many ports that are nearest to the industries, and those can provide the connectivity to the cargoes via sea as well. There we see, we personally observed there is into the bulk segment, there is one hindrance which is wharfage charges. We have been discussing with many government sites that the wharfage charges is applicable stringently into the bulk cargo, whereas into the container cargo, it might be including into the terminal handling charges, but that is a stagnant charge. Whereas in bulk, there is a difference into the cargo, as per the ports, there are different wharfage charges applicable. So these charges are also creating hitch to compete with the rail and road cargoes for coastal movements. Let us come either to the discounting. Instead of discounting, we are seeing there are hikes always into the profit charges. But if government can put up a policy accordingly, that what they place into the GST form, if we put a credit availness for the warfare charges to those importers and exporters, especially you know that all the charges, warfare charges are paid even on the single cargo. It is even on the single say for finished goods, it is paid 3 to 4 times warfare charges for whatever they import for raw materials, and while exporting the finished goods also. So why this kind of multiple times implementation of warfare charges? It should be into the credit line, that if one cargo is import and second cargo is export, there can be a credit availance for say for 50%, 25% for those who have imported significant quantity. For them, that will boost the country also to shift to the coastal movements. If they have credit avail of wharfages, they will come forward to use the credit availness. Coming next to the biggest hitch for shipping industries to grow, like Mr. Chirag mentioned that yeah, we are getting loans and onto the vehicles. If you want to get loan on homes, if you want to purchase, even today bankers are offering loans to salaried people without any documents or without any collaterals. I don't know what is happening to country. If we have so much of money, why can't we invest in ships? And why there are stringent policies to invest in ships? If you want to use your money and distribute just amongst the people, why don't you distribute amongst the at least legitimate people, those who want to buy ship? Especially like when we approach to bankers, they are stringent providing loans to the ships. Even government has no such policy that gives support to the funding to the shipping segment. These are the basic hindrances that we have into the country while developing this segment. And finally, if we see the development of infrastructure, also what we are spending on to the infrastructure development, it is 7 times lesser than what any other developed countries are doing. So if we just shift our focus a little bit towards the coastal segments, we can do wonders. We can save our country from the pollutions, from the, although these BS6 are coming, but we can't save the country from the traffic, from the accidents, from the casualties happening due to accidents. So these all are the hits to the road transport movements, where we have took this initiative 6 years, 7 years before, that we just focused on shifting the cargoes, those cargoes which are transporting easily through road transport. We just took initiatives to go to clients, get them convinced for shifting their cargoes and coming to the segment of multimodal logistics. Although we are taking risk about that, we are taking initiatives to take the losses about the handling losses and all. But now we have stabilized very much that the country needs such initiatives, and we are forcing ourselves through that. So this is how we would conclude the topic about, we discussed the basic introduction about coastal shipping, and then the opportunities and the problems that we are facing, the development of the coastal shipping. My pleasure to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Rohit Bajaj. A lot of interesting insights, a lot of questions to the government. Hopefully it will be answered. And we do have, we'll move on to our next speaker. But before that, since one of our guests, Mr. Chirag, has to leave, he's part of the COVID-19 task force. So he has a meeting, so he's leaving right now. But we have a question for him, and he's answered it on chat. But let me just read out the question. Dear Chirag, would like to ask you this because market price is a function of demand and supply. Do you think the transportation cost will increase considering 30 lakh trucks will be out of market? This is a question to you, Mr. Chirag. Would you like to elaborate on your answer?
Yes, ma'am. So there will be a very huge rise in the freight, trucks freight, because there will be a lot of demand and less supply of trucks. But the main concern, what I wrote in the chat also, is that 30 lakh people are going to lose their job. 30 lakh drivers will be on road, and what about them? And again, like, every driver, they have, like, 4 or 5 family members dependent on them, and along with that, people working in the garages and a lot of other businesses or small businesses who are dependent on transporters will get affected. So according to us, approximately 2.5 crore people are going to get affected. So that is the main concern, and we really need government to think about that. And see, we need to save our environment. We need to go green. There should be some strict action or some some good policy that this 30 lakh drivers can get employment in some other sector or something government should do for them. Then only it's possible for us also to scrap our vehicles and support this initiative. Thank you, Deepa.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chirag. Hopefully that's answered the question. Thank you so much for being part of the panel. I know that you are heading the task
One more
force.
question. There is one question I can read.
There is one more question for you.
What is
I don't think there is a question addressed to
so
me specifically.
there is a question from Sudhir Gupta. Sudhir Gupta ji, I'm really sorry. Association has taken this topic very seriously, and we have also approached Mr. Anand Mahindra, and there was a Mr. Y.S. Malik. He was the General Secretary of Transport Ministry, and we had also approached him. There is one video also on YouTube. You can my video where I had asked him for 20 crore rupees, and we had also asked him to start a diploma course for truck drivers, where the training should happen from the government side. They should every driver should be trained, and they should get proper diploma for driving. So we have approached government to design some crash course for the truck drivers, but we have demanded. But let's see how government is fulfilling our demands.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Sudhirji, I hope your question is answered there. Thank you so much, Chiragji, for patiently answering the questions as well. Before moving on to your next meeting, thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have more questions coming in, but we will take those towards the end. This is because he had to leave. We had to take those questions immediately. We'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Rishi Jain. Rishi Jain is the Managing Director of Globus Transitors Private Limited that handles freight forwarding and end-to-end logistics for for its clients. Established in 2008, Rishi Jain was instrumental in developing the company to where it is today. He holds a master's in international business from IIFT. And today, Mr. Jain will talk to us about the topic, what are the lessons the logistics industry has learned from the pandemic? Well, there are quite a few lessons that all of us have learned, but yes, from the logistics industry point of view, we have Mr. Rishi Jain talking to us. Over to Mr. Jain. You are on mute, sir. Sir, could you kindly unmute? Sure.
Is it okay now? Hello.
Absolutely, yes.
So, good afternoon, Mohandas ji, our anchor Deepa ji, Sudhir ji, and organizing team, my fellow panelist speakers, and dearest online participants. Hello from New Delhi, myself Rishi Jain from Globus Transitors. Honored to be given this small chance to speak in front of you, presenting my views about the lessons which the logistic industry learned during this pandemic. We all know that life has changed. It has changed drastically, from shaking hands with strangers in business meeting to staying 6 feet away from even our close ones. The logistic industry has always been at forefront. The world is at war with virus, and at one point of time, you can see there were no drivers, loaders, captains to support this 200 billion industry. The industry faced a lot of crisis, increased freight cost, economic slowdown, political tensions between India and China. There was an absolute chaos, but the industry survived. It came out. I will not say well, but yes, it came out. So, according to me, we learned a lot of lessons, The first lessons we learned is about our preparedness. All the business struggled with new crises every day. The main objective of all the business owners were to keep the operations running smoothly, to ensure maximum customer satisfaction, but we did not have a good navigate comprehensive plan towards employees' health and insurance. We were not ready for the health crisis. We need to formulate a plan to make sure that we do take proper care for our employees at office, at port, CFS, on the ground, trucks, warehouse, everywhere. Secondly, we transferred the system, from office to home, work from home, but we still failed to transfer the work culture. We created a multitasking job position, completion of critical business processes on the important employees, but we fail to understand, the infrastructure at home, internet speed, family issues, long working hours. There were employees who got bombarded with calls, emails, and this conflicts the basic idea of our work culture. And the lesson we learned from this is that we have to not only save work at home, but work culture at home, limited time, good working environment, not only the transfer of systems. Secondly, is not to stick to one single industry, not to stick to one single region. Like suppose now it is total lockdown in Delhi. So the logistic industry, the organization who are only in Delhi, they are stuck. No business, revenue comes to a standstill. So the less popular industry, came to a standstill. So one has to look towards expansion. One has to look towards increasing of network. Then comes is the digitization, new online methods, working remotely, e-commerce has become a must, and still logistic industry works a lot of paperwork. And when people are working from home, there's a difference between, employers and employees. So when the proximity is not there, this becomes a mess. So we need to increase the accessibility of this technology, of this digital world towards the small business owners. When the lockdown happened, who gave us the bread and butter? The small kirana shop, So these small industries are really playing transporter, sole proprietorship, courier companies. They really played a lead role. And Mohandas ji, we want you to help these small industries so that they have accessibility towards software, hardware, and because they play a huge role towards sustenance of this economy. Then the lesson we learned is about the finances. logistic industry has always bear the burden of credit risk, and liquidity at this time played a major role. Taking the shield of COVID or force major, many of the stakeholders, they came from credit to advance payment, and the working of the companies, got stuck because they were having no funds, no internal source of inducement or an external inducement. So the lesson we learned is that finances, without proper in-house finances, there is a huge sense of, risk while running. Then we come, towards leadership. Now, any organization does not only need, owners, chairmen, directors, equity holders. What they now need are the leaders. They need mentors, to stand upright and face the situation, from employees' health to workplace to, maintaining and ensuring the operations so that the clients are delivered, they are satisfied. Okay, many organizations were ready with digital automation, everything technology, but how to make client use it? The clients were not adaptable to this technology. They were still going offline methods. So the leader has to face this. Many organizations we have learned is salary cuts, attrition, firing of the staff to cost. So how to mitigate this? This is, the lesson we learned is that we need to have a leader, visionary leaders. Many of you, you came out with flying colors because you managed your organization well. So friend, the main thing we need now is the leadership to run an organization, to run it well, manage the operation, and to keep the customer happy. There will always be some kind of, disaster, not as a panic as like pandemic or COVID-19 in some part of the world here or there, but change is inevitable. We have to adapt to these change, and the leader has to lead from the front. This is all I would like to say from my side. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rishi Jain. I think those are points that all of us agree on. Like when we transitioned work from home, we didn't really transition that culture to home, and so there is a culture intersection that's happening. The culture at home and the culture at work is intersecting with each other, and it's so there needs to be good leadership to lead it, even when we have such a major change happening. And I'm sure on this panel here we have a lot of young leaders who will mold themselves into great leaders in future. So thank you for those words, Mr. Rishi Jain. We will now move on to our next speaker, Mr. Vaishnav Shetty. Vaishnav Shetty is a second-generation entrepreneur and executive director of ECU Worldwide. He is responsible for business development, system engagement, collaborations with startups, and integration and implementation of new technologies and process globally. Today, he's going to be talking to us about how to build a digital tool for logistics operation, which is extremely important because we're all moving digital. So he's going to tell us how to build a digital tool for logistics operation. Mr. Vaishnav Shetty, over to you.
Thank you, Deepa. I actually have a presentation, so I will share that if that's okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. So I hope everyone can see my screen. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vaishnav Shetty, and I look after some of the digital projects at the All Cargo Group, focusing primarily on two companies, EQ Worldwide and Gati. So thank you for having me here today, and it's a pleasure to be on this distinguished channel. Today I will focus on my learnings from EQ Worldwide on what were some of the key principles that enabled us to achieve some level of success in creating the world's largest LCL platform with customers and end-to-end serviceability across more than 60 countries called EQ360. The COVID time enabled us to grow quite rapidly, and today we transact around 30% of EQ's global export LCL volume through our platform. But by now, I'm sure many of you have an idea of what digital is and the importance to your company specifically. we've all heard some startup or the other coming up in each of our industries. And like Mr. Rishi Jain said, the pandemic, after the pandemic, we all have a feeling that we should be doing something to compete for disruptions. So I thought I would share some of my thoughts from my experience that I think are relevant for keeping in mind when building out or scaling your digital initiatives. As I will come to later, digital must be a P&L function, and therefore your expectations and outcomes from it should be very clear. For us at EQ, these were the main themes, and we set up clear metrics to review them. We are focused on three key technological interventions. These are just the ones that are focused on the customer. And we know that these are the main value propositions that we want as a result of it. So what I will do is maybe a little different to what Deepa said. I will actually talk you all through, instead of the platform, talk more about how we went about our project and why we were able to unlock some value. So I will talk about in little detail on each of these points. So as you saw in my first slide, one must start out by creating a strong business case with a budget signed off with your senior leadership, having it constantly reviewed and setting clear goals. Expectation management is very important to the motivation of the company. Digital projects can't deliver the moon in 2 to 3 months. Therefore, making sure that your leadership is connected to the team and reviewing others that are working with you cross-functionally is very, very important. Legacy HR in most cases is not or would not be able to onboard the right talent, and find it difficult also to nurture them and think like them. So because organizational bureaucracy and inflexibility will usually drive those digital projects to frustration. So it is important to be flexible and make exceptions. For example, one of the things we did at EQ was, the issue with working on Saturdays. What we mentioned to the team was, you don't have to come into office on Saturday, but work on something creative, work on something new. And this, of course, helps build trust and excitement within the team. When it comes to hiring, having active involvement from key stakeholders is an important part of the process as well. Point number three, we all know someone from Silicon Valley will not be able to magically come and turn around the fortunes of your company. What you do require are some of your bright existing resources to be part of this venture. This will motivate them and your company as a whole. And if, generally, if people are not willing to do this, then it's likely that they don't believe in these initiatives enough. So also, if you were to look at any research on data science or such subjects, the one thing that is most fundamental to success is having hardcore business knowledge. All the other technology and other skills can be learned, but the other way around is always very difficult. Internal PR is very important. Making your company comfortable with transformation, because digital transformation is people-centric. If it was a board-level project, every company would be Alibaba. But it is important to realize that it is an evolution of the company as compared to something that will reduce jobs or those kind of things, right? The collaboration of your organization is important. Otherwise, your digital initiatives will always fight an uphill battle of hesitation or skepticism. So we have done this by creating something we call the collaboration metrics with key stakeholders, and we meet and review this every week with our COO. Customer experience is very important. If a customer is more likely to send you an email than go online, then you must find out why and change it. The idea of digital for me is to enable you to serve your customers much better through enhanced visibility, intelligence, and efficiency. These are the three words you probably saw earlier also, VIE. In French, la vie means the life, right? So that's one thing we always discuss as a team. This is our raison d'être. This is why we exist. Finally, this one word, jugaad, it means so much, insinuates courage, execution, disobedience, innovativeness, how not to give up on your goals. The message here is the most important hack for enabling good digital projects is to nurture good culture, and owners and CEOs must all drill this into the minds of their team as well. Culture is infectious, and if nurtured well, it will percolate throughout your organization. So I would like to give you now a real life example, which I think covers all the previous points to some extent. Um, on Feb 7th of this year, I woke up and read a message from our CTO, which said that our company had a cyber incident that resulted in the shutdown of our systems across the globe, which meant operations across 100 countries almost came to a standstill. Our ERP, accounting system, emails, all came to a halt. So when I had to speak to our chairman, I was very afraid, and all that he said was, "Now is the time to be positive. So let's think of what next." So we all took that to heart, and the next day we got our 360 platform up and running. We restored the database, put the whole platform into the cloud, and used it as a makeshift ERP as well as the customer engine. The rest of the system still took little over a week to come back. But in that time, our platform served as a backbone for the operational workload. We made changes constantly in the live environment to support operational requirement, and we enabled our offices with regular data and insights, in order to manage their operations and customers. And this was only possible because I think we followed some of the things I spoke about in the previous slides. Um, we got some very bright people on board our team who used to hold fairly senior positions in the legacy organization. So these guys knew the systems and our processes very well and were able to execute quickly, and enable on-ground success. We took a very bold and different path to the rest of the company as well, which enabled us to get things up back and running. We had the complete backing of our CEO and senior leadership, who made sure that the usage of the platform was adhered to by 100% of our people across almost 100 countries. So imagine that. It was quite a success in that sense already. And in the past, we had done a lot of campaigns, so it was very easy to transition our employees, our customers, because most of them had some idea of what this venture was all about. And because we focus a lot on the user experience, a lot of the people preferred using 360 as compared to our ERP or something else. So it helped reduce some of the mental stress and burden on the organization. And finally, for the culture, I think in that week we were positive, we were aggressive, and I think we lived our purpose, which was to serve as a resilient business model and upend disruption from externalities. And like I mentioned, one of the key areas to drive digital transformation is to have buy-in on the ground. For the people to be advocates of the project. I think we managed to do that quite successfully. I don't know if we have any more time. These are some other points that are usually helpful as well to keep in mind. Always think of the customer. I think Jeff Bezos always talks about, I'll not say anything else there, but it really does help, and it's a good way of engaging the capabilities of your entire organization. Blitzscaling, it is a theory where you hold speed and scale above all else, but for corporates, this usually doesn't work because corporates have a lot to protect. Culture, motivation levels, customer service quality, reputation. So whether you're launching a new product or just some optimizations, it needs to be cohesive and holistic with the buy-in of your important stakeholders. Then once you succeed a couple of times, your ability to scale significantly improves. Recruiting high quality people is all about story, about giving a compelling reason to join, about the belief, So again, if you're doing this digital transformation projects, you can't do them half-baked. Otherwise, you will either give only half attention or not be able to bring the right people into place, and both of those things are not ideal. Collaboration is very important, like I mentioned. Even within the team, everybody should work together. And finally, academia, hosting events and enabling students to solve problems is an area I think that is still very untapped in India. Beyond IITs, there are phenomenal colleges like NITI and KRIA, and we have recently onboarded some really good students and adjunct professors from NITI, which is one of the best industrial engineering colleges in the country. So that was all I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was of some value to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vaishnav Shetty. It was indeed interesting. That was truly Gen X, I must say, because Gen X or fresh perspectives, I believe, is not just about technology and being digital, but it's also about how different you've looked at things and a different attitude that have brought all together, rather than the age-old concept of having to be very formal and having to be sticking to the rules and the discipline. It's about going innovative and being new in your way of thinking, and truly you've brought in some fresh ideas there. Thank you so much, Mr. Vaishnav Shetty. And I request all the speakers also to stay back towards the end. There are a lot of these points which you can discuss among yourself once all of you have given your own thoughts. So do stay back. Well, we will move on to our next speaker for the day. Once again, to all the viewers out there, do drop in your questions on the chat box and indicate to whom you would want that, who you would like the question to be answered. So please do drop your chats. Let's move on to the next speaker for the day, Mr. Vikram Lakhotia. Vikram Lakhotia is the Managing Director of Standard Coastal Shipping Private Limited. He has played an instrumental role in establishing his company's network across 14 ports and 6 ICD locations in India to offer door-to-door multimodal services covering 4,820 locations. And today, Mr. Vikram Lakhotia will talk to us on the topic, when will India truly harness its coastal shipping potential? Mr. Vikram Lakhotia, it's a pleasure having you with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Deepa. That was a very powerful intro. Respected chief guests, honorable speakers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is indeed a great pleasure to be part of this event along with various experts and industry professionals. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Mr. Sudhir of India Seatrade for organizing this conference and to encourage young stakeholders on a single platform. I have a couple of minutes to speak, and I would like to reflect on when India will truly harness its coastal shipping potential. I have thoroughly enjoyed hearing Mr. Rohit Bajaj on the coastal bulk division, Mr. Vaishnav Shetty for the tech, leveraging of tech and the turnaround that he has done. Firstly, coastal shipping is not new to India as a mode of transport. Our forefathers have used sea and water transport for goods and passenger movements decades back. Since my university days, I have been passionate about the Indian coastal trade. I was studying different models and was impressed with the European short sea shipping model using the hub and spoke concept. These countries have benefited by largely decongesting their road and rail traffic. We all here are aware of the fact that logistic costs in India currently stands at 13% of GDP in comparison to 8 to 10% of peer nations. Shipping, maritime transport is critical to the economic development of any country, and especially for the 21st century. Recently, even government projections for coastal shipping and waterway share will grow from 7% to 15% in coming years and has the potential up to 35% market share. You see, India is becoming a global manufacturing hub and will need robust multimodal and intermodal connectivity for domestic and international markets. Our key concern is the congested rail and road modes of transport that are unable to cope up with increasing freight demand, growing urbanizations, ports, terminals, Even distribution centers are facing challenges in evacuation of goods, and this is resulting in increase in inefficiencies and cost, as Mr. Chirag mentioned earlier. So, friends and colleagues, we have no choice but to propel coastal shipping as an alternative mode. Last 2 decades, we have seen that the total coastal trade has stagnated at 7% of the domestic cargo, which includes POL, bulk, big bulk, containerized movement collectively. At present, 120 million tons of goods are being used using coastal shipping, are being moved using coastal shipping, and we still have a scope to move 300 million tons within the existing infrastructure, which can tune up to 600 million tons by optimizing our coastal shipping and waterways. So, to answer the question, the Indian coastal container trade in the last 2 decades has grown from scratch to 3 lakh TEU per annum. That is presently being serviced by 4 coastal lines connecting 17 ports and 9 states with 23 vessels only. From that statistics, major growth was seen in the last 5 years. So yes, this decade, 2021 to 2030, will harness the coastal shipping potential of 1 million TEU in the first half of the decade and 2 million TEU in the second half. For this kind of projected growth, we have to expand our cargo basket by penetrating to more than 17 states. By doing so, by increasing intermodal connectivity with the assistance of rail and road operators, adding modern young age fleet of vessels, various types and sizes, from RSV 4 and seagoing vessels, from small feeder to feeder max vessels, connecting nearest consumption and production centers to minor ports, reducing first and last mile distances, which will land up factoring the scales of economies, and the various others. We are a very, very small example to have leveraged technology solutions and integrated with various stakeholders to be able to create a door-to-door integrated multimodal transport solution and have made optimal usage of our existing road, rail, and waterways to cater to the needs of the domestic sector. I would like to add there are various native challenges faced by coastal shipping, such as high cost and high capital and tax costs, lesser allocation of funds in comparison to road and rail, aging Indian fleet, tonnage suitability, cabotage law, disparity in GST, and there are many more. But to address these challenges, there is MTO documentation and coastal berth schemes that are initiating. There has been allowance of 100% FDI investments. There is focus on development of non-major ports, coastal multimodal parks under Sagarmala. It is taking its time, but we are seeing a small difference. There are initiatives by NSB with proactive support from the ministries. Having said that, I would like to close by stating one thing. Road and rail transport should consider coastal shipping not as a competition, but complement the mode. This will result in a better and organic growth of this mode of transport. Even now, new operators have already started introducing new routes and service patterns. They have joined the race to create awareness of the coastal multimodal product in the hinterland regions of India. We look forward to engage with more such synergies. So, my friends, let us make this decade 2021-2030 as a decade of coastal shipping growth for the national benefit. Thank you and stay safe, everyone. It has been a pleasure to be part of this forum, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikram Lakhotia. Thank you for your address. We will move on to our next guest. Once again, my request to the viewers is kindly, when you drop your questions, please do indicate who it is addressed to. because if you do not put in that, we will have to spend time figuring out who will take the questions. So it would be extremely helpful if you can write down the name of who the question is addressed to. Well, thank you once again, Mr. Vikram Lakhotia, for your address. Please hang on. We will have questions for you and interaction among yourself. Let's move on to our next guest, Mr. Naveen Prakash. Naveen Prakash is the co-founder of Logistics Solutions India Private Limited, which is an LCL groupage company. Established in 2006, Naveen grew the company to a team of 300 professionals serving 10,000 plus customers through 2,000 plus international ports. Not a mean feat. Topic that he's going to talk to us today is on how is freight forwarding companies coping up in the face of rising competition. Interesting topic. Over to Mr. Naveen Prakash.
Thank you, Ms. Deepa. And also thank Sudhir for putting me here among all these speakers. Also, it's always a pleasure to be in the presence of Mr. Mohandas. He's always been so encouraging to the trade, especially maritime industry. So I've heard him so many times, and today to have him here, it's always a pleasure. So as Ms. Deepa said, the interesting topic. Some people love competition, some don't, and but everybody loves freight forwarding on this over here. So I'll make a presentation as a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. So if you can see that this is my topic given to me, and there's a classic definition of a freight forwarding company. Basically, they operate as a bridge between the carrier and the shipper, but it doesn't end there. They also have to be choosing the right mode of transportation and delivery at right time and at the right price. So it's not just like they're connecting the shipper to the shipping lines, but the responsibility is much more. So typically, breaking down what the responsibilities are, they have to book the space with the ships, with the airlines, and with the other MUCC operators. They have to ensure that good domestic transportation is done. Now we're talking about coastal shipping also. Most of the freight forwarding activity includes that. A lot of paperwork and end-to-end deliveries. So as I said, that's a lot of work for a freight forwarding company, basically. So who are the competitors for these freight forwarding companies? Jumping straight away to the first and most prominent competitor for the Indian freight forwarding companies is the MNC freight forwarding companies. These basically have taken over 50% of the total logistics business. They're global companies with hundreds of offices in hundreds of countries. So and they give a plethora of services which attract the customers to go with them. So leaving us with another 50% of the market size. Second most important competitor for the Indian freight forwarding companies are the shipping lines themselves, even though we were traditionally booking the cargoes with them, but the shipping lines want to work directly with the BCO as the direct customers because they want to have a better control over the customers, and they can make predictions how the cargo flow would be for next few quarters for them. So they always are trying to get directly to shippers. We know companies like Maersk, they had Damco, CMA buying over Siva, and other shipping lines also are following suit. Number third is the digital freight forwarding companies. These are again freight forwarding companies, but they say they're totally digital. They're not having a physical presence, but they can do all activities which a traditional freight forwarding company can also do. So yeah, so it may not be so big in India, but globally there are big companies, especially on the US West Coast, who are operating these services mainly from China and Far East into US West Coast. And there are thousands of containers that they book every week. So India also is seeing emergence of new freight forwarding companies, digital freight forwarding companies who are being a competition now for the traditional freight forwarding companies what we have in India. Then comes the shippers. Most of the shippers now have the access to the rates with the shipping lines directly, and these shippers are booking directly with shipping lines. So as per a study, 10% of shippers are booking cargo directly with the shipping lines. This makes the market a little bit more competitive because when we approach the shippers, they say that we're getting these rates and credit facilities and other amenities from the shipping lines. So what more you can offer to us? So it by itself becomes another competition. NVCC and LCL consolidators. Traditionally, these companies were never into freight forwarding, but we know that certain companies, when they get in request from their overseas counterpart or shipper whether they would like to do some freight forwarding activities also other than their normal business. They want to experiment it out, and for some people it's successful, so they want to add another stream of revenue to their organization. So by that, they also don't shy away from wearing a freight forwarder's hat. So next one is digital marketplace. Basically, it's nothing. I mean, as I already spoke about digital freight forwarders, it is not the same. It's different. All of us are on Facebook and social media. We know that there are certain Facebook groups where shippers, consignees, shipping lines, not shipping lines, actually freight forwarding companies, Indian and domestic and international, everybody is present. So it's a marketplace. Somebody has a requirement for a point A to point B, and they tell the method of transportation, and someone is there to offer a quote. And transactions do happen in these platforms, so we just cannot ignore it. Some of the freight forwarding companies have joined here also, and they're taking some businesses. So now, just given a brief about the competition, most of us know about it, but just putting in perspective so that I would go forward by saying how these freight forwarding companies are beating the competition. So the saying is very clear that companies that solely focus on the competition don't do well, but people who focus on value creation who thrive. So I'm going to show how Indian freight forwarding companies have created value, not only to keep the existing customers, but also to gain new business. As the government of India has focused a lot on the MSME and Make in India, there are a lot of new companies emerging who are mainly export oriented. So when they're going to export, a lot of inputs are required to be imported as well. So it's much better to work with the SME companies because they're looking for the guidance from a freight forwarding company on all aspects of shipping and logistics, vis-a-vis a big customer who has thousands of containers of shipments per month, or hundreds at least per month, has access to the shipping lines and the forwarders. It really boils down to who's going to give the best price. Building online capabilities, thanks to my previous speakers who have already mentioned that freight forwarding companies are also building online capabilities. They just can't be in a traditional mode. So they have systems to give a freight quote. They have booking platforms of their own. You can track and trace all your shipments on their website, the mobile apps. And it not only helps existing customers, but also helps the overseas counterparts who give them business and they handle that in India, and making them to expand more from the traditional markets. Niche products and services. Most of the freight forwarding companies have some niche or other, or they give a complete basket of services. However, certain companies have realized that they can focus on certain businesses which are very highly profitable for them, and they see a lot of growth potential. So we all know about the current, so many freight forwarding companies have come up saying that they're good in pharma, in cold storage. So we know, I mean, I don't want to mention each and every point, it's on the screen. So we know the companies who specialize in these products, they're focusing more on it because their revenues come more from it and their investments are going in this direction. So making them more competitive to others compared to others who are generalists and these are specialists. Niche geographical markets. Traditionally, freight forwarder would accept cargo for any port, from any port across the world. But certain freight forwarding companies have realized that they have more business for one particular sector, especially the emerging markets like Africa and South America, where the margins are much better. And these organizations have realized that they have certain inherent strengths which they can exploit to make more revenues and to focus themselves as these sector specific companies. And even in market also, when we have seen certain shippers go to these freight forwarding companies who specialize in particular sectors when they have a shipment bound to these sectors. Yeah, warehousing distribution. One of my previous speakers also spoke about the potential and the companies who already have business and which they were giving outside. Now they're building their own capabilities to handle warehousing and distribution also as to beat the competition. E-commerce deliveries and FBAs. Basically, Flipkart is one of the e-commerce companies which allows companies to start their franchises in various cities. So if a freight forwarder has 25 to 30 offices across India, they can take up the agency, they can start, and that's what some people are doing also. Amazon FBA, basically fulfilled by Amazon, is nothing but you become Amazon's vendor in India. You consolidate the shipments of various shippers going to one particular destination, and you have to just send a 40-footer box to that particular location of Amazon warehouse located in Europe or US. The thousands of containers Amazon is booking themselves from China and Far East. In India, it's booking through some freight forwarding companies who do complete logistic services for their suppliers. LCL consolidation. Most of the freight forwarding companies have a good LCL business of their own. Previously, they used to co-load 100% of their business, but now they see that they can start their own LCL services, not to all the sectors, but definitely wherever they have more cargo. So it's very common to see freight forwarders having their own LCL groupage service to UK, to USA, because they have enough cargo. They don't want to co-load it out, and it's a new generation, new source of revenue generation for them. And for example, DHL doesn't co-load 95% of their cargoes, LCL cargoes rather. They do it under their own program, and only 3 to 4% is what they're co-loading it out. Most importantly now is that most of the speakers also spoke that traditional companies are hiring people and specialists where they don't have the skills, and they're setting up these new divisions, which of course needs a lot of upskilling and training among their team. So hiring, training, and upskilling is going in a big way. We can see a lot of companies talking about it. Branding, as we know that it's been caught up, and as they say in Hindi, jo dikta hai wo bikta hai. So basically, it's so important. All the companies have realized how important it is to do branding, not only to approach new customers, but also to give a lot of impetus on what exactly they stand for. There's another way to get more business for the freight forwarding companies by joining a lot of international freight forwarding networks. Previously, freight forwarders used to be maybe in one network just to ensure that they have a safety of payment network and things like that. But now people are having more than 4 to 5 networks, because this is a very good source of generation of revenue for them. So basically, competition is not only about looking who can give the best price, but looking at your strengths and pitching according to that. So I end my presentation by my two favorite quotes, which one says that competition is good. It brings out the best in all of us. Second one by Mr. Henry Ford, all of you know him, that he believes that you believe in yourself rather than focusing on others. It only distracts. It's a big distraction for all of us. So focus on us. That's what I try to present in my presentation, where most of the freight forwarding companies have focused on their strength and how they're growing, how they're beating the competition and growing in these challenging times also. Thank you. So
thank you so much, Naveen Prakash. Some very significant points on competition. Competition is definitely good, was the point that he made. But at the same time, you shouldn't just ignore competition as such. Yes, if you need to thrive, you need to focus on what value you're creating, and of course, brand yourself as well, just like what he said, jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. So let's not forget to brand ourselves as well and thrive in the competition. Thank you, Mr. Naveen Prakash. Please with us for further discussions. Let's move on to our next speaker for the day, Mr. G. Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar is the director of Shravan Shipping Services, which operates a container freight station in Vishakhapatnam. He's responsible for overseeing the CFS and bulk cargo businesses of the company, and has played a key role in streamlining and automating the CFS operations. Shravan Kumar, he's going to be talking to us today on the topic, how much has logistics of dry cargo evolved since your company was formed, and how have you adopted the best practices for safe and efficient operations? He'll be talking about it from his own experience. So over to you, Mr. G. Shravan Kumar. The floor is yours. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Shravan Kumar.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Deepa. Yeah, respected panelists, very good afternoon. So, the topic for me is like, to discuss on the dry cargo evaluation, on, the way that dry cargo has been moving up from last 10 years down the line. So technically, I come from a place of Vishakhapatnam. So we operate 2 CFSs in Vishakhapatnam, and we handle more than 2 million metric ton of cargo when it comes to bulk cargo movements. So technically, when I'm specifying that I come from a place of Visakhapatnam on a east coast where the cargo commodities are completely different. The flow of the cargo is different. Here we talk about granites, we talk about ores, we talk about coal, we talk about cargo coming in bulk form in major places. And even if you're talking in containers, it will all be heavy containers. So we don't talk about LCL, we don't talk about finished goods. We talk about rice, we talk about maize, we talk about typical container of 25 to 26 tonnage of loadability. And then you add the container weight. So technically, I come from a place where everything is heavy. So the cargoes are heavy and the containers are heavy in weight to carry. So, Visakhapatnam being the proximity of Orissa, where Orissa is not containerized at this point of time. So, where all the containerization movements of Orissa will be flowing through Visakhapatnam. And being heavily industrialized, having your Vedanta, Tata's, Balco, Nalco, Tata Steel, all the steel plants situated there. So technically, this is a port where you deal with heavy bulk cargoes. So, I've done my master's in UK, and this is a second generation entrepreneurship into it. So technically, once I started coming back into the system. So this is, I'm talking about 2012-13. The way the cargo has been flowing from today's date, the ports have changed. Mechanization came in. BOT operators came in, specification of berths where certain berths will be allocated for coal, certain berths are allocated for iron ore, certain berths are allocated for limestone. Specification of cargoes came in, specification of berths, efficiencies have improved. Automation has taken place to the next level when it comes to handling these particular bulk cargoes. Today, with a much faster turnarounds, I'm talking about a 10,000, 15,000 tonner of discharge rate vessels. We are now doing a complete automation of loading into the wagons. Wherein the wagon tipplers are in place, your loaders are in place, your typical no cargo unloading systems have changed. Previously, there are days where your hatches have to be cleaned manually. Your discharge rates are at 8,000, 6,000 to 8,000, and then your dispatch of evacuation depends on the number of dumpers, the number of evacuation people responsible in the system are at a huge number. So compared to those days, the cargo handling systems have totally changed. Now everything is automized. Vessel sizes have increased. Now people are talking about a 1 lakh tonner, wherein you'll get a competitive freight advantage when compared to your handy max of 30 to 40,000 tonners. I appreciate that, because of the draft issues, not all ports can handle this Cape size vessel. But yeah, whenever the ports are in a position to handle this Cape size vessels, the importers and exporters and the trade is having a beneficial of freight, which is really huge in numbers. So now, the ports are changing, deeper draft ports are coming up, the cargo evacuations are changing up. Previously, there are days where, I still remember, evacuating the cargo with a 10-tier truck of 12 tons each to today's 16-tier trucker taking 38 tons. So the evacuation by road as well as the cargo handling capacities in terms of mechanization have changed a lot. The cargo profiles have not changed because you have to understand that, India being a very vast country, the cargo profile of every port differs depending on the industrial requirement of that particular hinterland. So technically, I have a very, different concept of it. You have to admit it, like, many speakers in many forums would be telling, like, India is having such a huge coastline, so why don't we have thousands of ports coming up, sort of stuff. But what really matters is the kind of efficiency what you build up in the ports matter a lot. So when I'm talking about the efficiency of the ports, it's the ability to handle all kinds of vessels, the draft issues, the hinterland connectivity issues, and then of course, it's geopolitical issues. So when I'm talking about it, I always believe in hub and spoke model, wherein you must always be having your bigger ports with huge cargo carrying and cargo handling capacities, and then your minor ports and other spoke models connecting to each other. Industries require ports. So it's something like, ports can't generate cargoes. Ports will only handle cargo. So there is one typical, I don't know whether it's a myth or something like that, but yeah, many people, not for the people who are experienced in the trade, but yeah, there are many people who will be thinking like, you build up more ports, you come up with a port in every 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers down the coastal line, your country's economic activity will grow up. Then I sometimes ask them like, ports will not generate cargo. Ports will only handle cargo. So where are your industries to generate your cargoes? So your industries will generate the cargo, and that cargo has to be efficiently handled at the nearest port is what the country requires. That's where of the trade of the country will be on a higher side. So coming to that, I have, and when I'm talking about on these forums of bulk cargoes and handling bulk cargoes, there are some people asking me like, I know that this is out of the topic, but still, there are some people asking me like, do you think that 3D printing will come into, will disturb the industry? I'll tell them that, version I'm talking about coal and coke handling. I'm talking about 1 million metric ton of handling. I think 3D printers can't print coal and coke. So I'm talking about pure ore-based cargoes and the other raw materials like your refractory raw materials, like your grains, like your pulses, wherein the 3D printing or your drones delivery system can't replace it. So there are typical laws in the industry wherein certain things will still continue happening the same way. Probably the mode would differ, the handling ways would differ, but yeah, your ships will come, your ships will park, they'll deliver the cargo, they'll pick up the cargo, and they'll move on. There are certain commodities which have to continue the same way. Probably, as my previous speakers are talking about it, the green impact and stuff. The fuel what you use might differ, and the truck which is carrying to the end point might differ, but your ships will continue working on it. So technically, there's one interesting factor which have been evolving in this dry cargo operations. So from 2012-13, I've seen good amount of cargoes like DBM, silica, your 1 ton metric ton packing cargoes getting converted into break bulk to containerization, because I'm sure that east coast side, particularly Orissa, Andhra side, the containerization took a bit lag when compared to other ports in the country. So yeah, 2012-13 we have seen until 2010-11 we still used to receive 1 ton metric bags of DBM, which is dead burnt magnesia, silica, manganese, which is limestone, starch, fused alumina. All these cargoes used to come in a break bulk carrier where there will be 30-40 shippers distributing the cargoes. That slowly went back into containers, and then now what we are seeing from the pandemic days is because of the freight increase and because of the non-availability of the containers at the load ports towards the destination, towards the Indian ports. A good amount of cargoes are again going back into break bulk and bulk cargoes. So people are again going back into it. They feel like, there is no consistency. Even if I pay triple freight, 4 times the freight, the cargoes are being held up in transshipment points in the containers. So we are not sure whether the cargoes will reach or not. So again, the consolidations are happening. Again, the cargo shift is happening from break bulk to containers, and now from containers to break bulk. When I'm telling you this, not all cargoes are happening it, but majority of the cargoes are happening it. Technically, all the break bulk cargoes where 1 ton packing and the palletization form are there. Yes, it's happening at a very fast pace. There are days like Vishakhapatnam port is not known for labor-related operations like loading rice and stuff. So technically, if you know, Kakinada, there's a minor port in the state of Andhra Pradesh which handles a majority of the rice bulk shipments, which is break bulk shipments, rice going in break bulk, not in containers. So that port handles majority of that cargo. But because of this pandemic, because of the global demand of rice, Indian rice, from last 3 months, Port of Vishakhapatnam started handling, and we have handled the first vessel of rice and break bulk after 16 years. Previously, only FCA shipments to Andaman used to happen. So now, commercial shipments, cargo to West Africa, started flowing because of shortage of containers on one part, excess freight on second part, global demand has increased on third part. So technically, we have seen new commodities coming into bulk way. I mean, we have never thought like these commodities will come into break bulk. You know, because we are used to do it in containerized, so we are under a fixed mind like, you know, this will continue in a containerized way. But yeah, things are changing. So technically, what happens in the global scenarios, like, I mean, the evolution of cargoes are trade driven, because end of the day, the freight matters, the connectivity issues matter, and then the customer's requirement matter. So, I mean, previously we all used to think like, you know, 1,000 tons, and when who will consolidate cargoes? But now we are looking people 17 shippers coming up to load a 25,000 ton vessel, 18 shippers coming to load a 35,000 ton vessel. No cargo differences, brand to brand. There'll be only a one layer of tarpaulin differentiating between them. They say, okay, first load the cargo because we are not able to push the cargo out of Indian ports. So let's start pushing it out. Then we'll figure it out at the West African ports. So technically, the cargo profiles are changing very fastly. I mean, there are days where sample shipments of granite blocks, I'm not talking about slabs, blocks, used to go in containers, and then once the sample gets selected, you know, the break bulk vessels come and they take the typical 6,000, 10,000 tonners. But in between, we have seen good amount of 20, 40 container lots of, you know, I mean, raw slabs and raw rocks going in containers. Now, because of the shortage of containers and because of the too much of excessive freight, even the sample shipments, people are shipping with the regular shippers. They're clubbing with the regular shippers, and then, you know, I mean, they're taking the mixed. I mean, pretty much unimaginably changing their pattern into dry cargoes. Cargoes which are predominantly into bulk, predominantly into break bulk, are into containers. From containers, now everyone is coming back into it. So that's where, you know, I mean, when I'm talking about packed materials, I'm talking about all these 1 ton metric tons, consolidation of cargoes. I'm like, yeah, because this particular side of East Coast, which is towards Orissa and Visakhapatnam, we are not into LCL so greatly. So technically, all the LCL shipments we still depend on Chennai and Bombay ports, because majority of the shippers who are based in Vizag are also having their manufacturing units in Hyderabad. So they connect their shipments in to Bombay and then they ship it out. So when it comes to safety of the operations, as I was mentioning in the first 2 minutes of my talk, because previously there used to be huge number of people loading a rake or loading or no unloading a bulk carrier. Technically, there are days where you know, because Visakhapatnam port comes under this DLB, dock labor port, there are a good amount of labor force working into it. Typical unloading of a vessel requires around 60, 70 people doing it, and yeah, there are chances of high fatal because of too many people involved in one crampy place, and then the trucks run there, the loaders, payloaders run there and stuff. Now, one ship loader offloading it, putting it on a conveyor belt, straight away takes you to stack yard, stack it there, picks it up, loads on a rake. So technically, you need supervisors to supervise the operation and a technician to rectify small errors, you know, if any. So when it comes to safety of the of the operations, I think the way the bulk handlings are happening at this point of time throughout the country are actually the safest way, because man-mission interference has been totally eliminated. So we could able to do this man-mission interference has been totally eliminated thanks to the private ports, which came up with investments, which who have invested on a particular cargo, started giving the best services, which created competition for the major ports also to come up with PPP models, which is the public-private partnership, the BOT basis. They've given their berths on hire. So different local players have come up. Good amount of players have invested in cargo handling facilities. So now there is a dedicated ore berths, dedicated coal berths, which are designed to handle that cargo. Previously, it all used to be like, you know, one berth, coal, okay, handle coal. Okay, next fertilizer is coming, okay, you clean the berth and then handle fertilizer. Next, your maize is coming, okay, you do one thing, clean the berth, put bins and handle maize. So days have changed. Now customers are also sensitive towards the way their cargoes have been handled. Silo systems have come. Evolution of cargo as well as time period, I think both have matched, and the infrastructure at every port have changed a lot in this last 8 years. So I mean, now it's all like a specific cargo, a specific berth, which is very safe in operation because you hardly operate with manual interference. It's all mechanized operations and stuff. So yes, I mean, so that's where it is all about. I mean, this subject of shipping is an ocean. So when you're talking about international shipping, you have giants and stuff. I'm sorry, I mean, this particular last point, what I want to tell you is like, there are certain elements where, Indian bank systems will not be supporting, be it in airlines or your shipping lines. I mean, don't expect Indian entrepreneurs in airlines and shipping lines because it's highly subjected to international markets wherein you get your interest rates at 0.2%, 0.5%, 0% interest rates, wherein it is not possible in India. So if you are an Indian and you want to establish a shipping line by buying ships or something like that, you better move to Hong Kong, Singapore, establish your operations there, get the credentials, get the bank funding, get the government support there, and then start doing it. Because I'm sorry, but yeah, certain businesses in this place, you're highly taxable, you're double taxable, your your tax exemptions are debatable, wherein you have to pay the tax and then you have to I mean, start debating with it, where the industry doesn't give you so much of profit margins to do so much of profit margins to fight for it. So as long as the government is giving a support, say for example, your PUL products will be given a preference if it's an Indian flag. So there, yeah, you can see some of your Indian flag vessels going in. But if you're subjected to open market and then you want to run a shipping line with huge ships or something like that, right tonnage, I mean, at this point of time, I mean, it's not so suggestible at this point of time. I'll just wrap it up, Deepa. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shravan Kumar. Well, that was a very calm and composed, presentation from you. Thank you so much. We will move on to our next speaker for the day, Mr. Harikrishnan Sundaram. Harikrishnan Sundaram is the Associate Vice President at Adani Ports and SEZ Limited and handles international business development and commercial strategy. He joined Adani in 2006 and since then grew through the ranks to the current position that he is in. Prior to Adani, he worked in P&O Ned Lloyd and NYK Line. Today, he'll talk to us about the topic, how important is backward integration into inland logistics for port operators. Mr. Harikrishnan Sundaram, over to you.
Hi,
Mr.
thank
Harikrishnan.
you, Deepa. I hope I'm audible and visible. Thank you. Thank you, Seatrade, Sudhirji. It's a pleasure to be here. I have heard excellent, speeches from my fellow colleagues. Again, thanks to Mr. Mohandas for being part of this. He's a veteran, so I'm sure he understands the problems that the industry is facing and what the next generation is trying to come up and do things differently. I also want to compliment Rishi Jain. I think he has touched upon some very valid issues that we as an industry faced during the pandemic. So ports and logistics and supply chain, was recognized as an essential services during the pandemic. So, so that the trade continues to happen, so that we have faced disruptions last year. I think everybody here would have faced some sort of disruption. But then, thanks to all the stakeholders who have been working, tirelessly, relentlessly to ensure that the goods kept moving, cargoes being handled in ports, so it's a complete, hats off to all those guys who were involved. Now, coming to the topic on backward integration, yes, I think end-to-end logistics today is the in thing. Everybody wants to do end-to-end logistics. Everybody wants to be in this space, whether it's in shipping line or logistics service provider, and now the port operators now, because I think what's happening is that the environment is getting a little challenging now. So the port operators have started kind of feeling the heat. The ports and terminals are merely handling cargo handling facilities, whereas the inland logistics, that's where the complete value addition to the customer is happening, and that's where all the immense opportunities for all the players are there. I think we as Adani Ports and SEZ, our core sectors have been operating ports, and right now we recently forayed into airports. We also have a decent presence in the inland logistics. We operate ICDs and we operate trains within India. We are trying to get into the services. We are trying to get into warehousing. We are trying to get into on the inland waterways, especially. That was the Government of India direct. So that was some barging through the inland.
Is there a network issue or is it my issue?
View clearly.
No, I think at Mr. Hari's end, there is a slight connectivity issue.
Yeah, true.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. It's just that you were breaking in between. So I was wondering if it was my issue, but I guess everyone feels the same. You can go ahead, no problem. In the interest of time, go ahead. Well, I think we've lost him. Mr. Hari, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Hello?
Go for next speaker.
Yes, okay, fine. Let's sort that out. In the meantime, we will move on to the next speaker. In the interest of time, since we've lost a little bit of time. So we'll move on to the speaker, Mr. G. Vipin Shankar. G. Vipin Shankar is the Director, Regional Operations South Asia at APL Logistics. He has 17 years of experience in 3PL operations in India, South Asia, and Middle East. In his current position, he's responsible for international operations covering India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Today, Mr. G. Vipin Shankar will talk to us on the topic Recent Trends in Cargo Consolidation and Logistics from an Indian Perspective. So let's move on to Mr. Vipin Shankar. By the time, let's hope Mr. Hari's network is all sorted out. Over to you, Mr. Vipin.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Sudhir. Thanks, Deepa, as an anchor. Respects to Mr. Mohandas. Nice to hear from him as well. And of course, all the wonderful panelists. It's nice to be with all of you this afternoon. I think it's a wonderful spectrum of topics we have covered this far. And I think Mr. Hari was trying to say something. Deepak, shall I continue?
Yes, please go ahead. We can still see that there is a problem at Hari's end, so you can go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Inform him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think from big bulk vessels to I think of course CFS's infrastructure. I think the speaker spoke about varied topics, so that was quite interesting. And I think now I think what I would touch upon is basically the cartons inside the containers. So which is cargo consolidation all about. So I've tried to give it a little bit of a flavor from both the perspective of somebody who's been in buyers consolidation for quite a while, and then some of the challenges which we see and trends, where every player should focus on. Yeah. So So I think if you typically look about cargo consolidation, you can broadly classify it into two segments. One is your LCL consolidation, or your traditional NVOCC consolidation, and then you have your buyers consolidation or purchase order management, which is more towards your retailers and automotive related sourcing supply chain, which is a multi-shipper, single consignee kind of a model. Whereas the LCL consolidation is a multi-shipper, multi-consignee kind of a model. And I think off late, especially in the last few years, and of course the COVID situation and all, with the e-commerce boom, I guess, shipping out smaller parcels has become the norm. So although of course cargoes which can afford a higher price might go on air, but anything else would still move on either an LCL or a buyer's consolidation. And just a market perspective, I guess, from an LCL consolidation perspective, India is around 22,000 TUs in terms of size every month, around 6 lakh CBM. Majority of volumes, I guess, is from north and northwest. Of course, Chennai is a big hub. In south, I think Chennai does a lot of LCL consolidation as well. And the commodities are across, the various verticals. Now, when you come to buyers consolidation or purchase order management, which is a segment quite big in itself as well. I think ready-made garments and perhaps auto parts or ready-made garments must be the largest. That's kind of driving, because India has been a sourcing hub for quite a lot of global retailers. So that's a segment which has been growing quite consistently, and that's further accelerated by the entry of the global brands into the Indian retail market, right? So traditionally, if there were Indian suppliers who were selling to an IKEA or a Levi's or Marks and Spencer, today when they have entered into the Indian retail market, there are government norms for local sourcing. So they do develop additional sourcing shippers, but they would not develop only for the Indian market. They would have to kind of integrate them for their global supply chain as well. So I think that's also kind of giving more impetus to this ocean logistics. And in as such, I think I would estimate that the Indian buyers console market itself is close to around 3 million CBM. Per annum, if you excluding the LCL consolidation, which otherwise happens. Yeah. Okay, coming to the trends part of it, I guess like every other segment my panelists spoke about, I think the cargo consolidation segment has seen government regulations. There have been ease of business doing rules which have changed. Technology definitely has come in. But there are also interesting trends like global sourcing to near sourcing. I think the COVID situation kind of accelerated that. Do you really need to source this far, or can I source from somewhere near? For example, traditionally, if somebody was sourcing from for the Indian market, say from either from China or somewhere else, maybe they would they started thinking, can I source more from say Bangladesh as a country, right? So closing closer to your customers, right? And I think what we also saw an interesting trend was that instead of having large suppliers in India, customers also started looking at, can I do very opportunistic buying, right? So there are a lot of global retailers who have a buying pattern today where they just use a supplier once, that's it. They are single time suppliers, so very opportunistic buying, which again gives a lot of impetus for LCL or buyers consolidation cargo. Cost and time has become the essence. I think customers like in bulk or in FCL or forwarding, I think even in the consolidation space, customers have become very cost conscious, because ultimately it's smaller units getting shipped. So every piece of garment or every single part of automotive which goes, they are keen to understand what is the cost. So cost and transit time. And I think traditionally the thought process was that if you send in a full container, it would be faster. But today the expectation is even if you do consolidation, you would expect faster turnaround and things like that. Impact of COVID, I think like every segment, I think consolidation did face significant challenges because I'm sure all my colleagues in the industry know that Unlike stuffing a regular container, a full container, if you have to stuff a consolidation container, perhaps some container could have 30, 40 or even more shipping bills, right? And so there was a lot of need for resilience to create flexibility. Maybe we had to expand the number of consolidation points. Traditionally, you may be using only few inland points for consolidation, but you may have to do more. We may have to move closer to ports for consolidation. So those were the trends which actually COVID kind of brought about, But I think overall the goal was to create a more responsive origin consolidation operation, to adjust to customer demands, volume expectations, and of course the COVID kept us on the hooks because I mean, you never know which location had a problem, so you got to switch to a port. And if you have to switch to a port, you need a consolidation facility, you need a CFS or an ICD to be quickly activated and things like that. So that I think really was trying to be much faster in establishing a consolidation point for global accounts, etc. Yeah. And I think one key, I would say, an attitude change for customers, which is always there. But I guess in the COVID era, I think it became that transparency became even more critical, right? They were not. I think there was a lot of anxiety in general that what's happening to the cargo, are you getting impacted, and things like that. But customers really wanted updates much faster and that perspective. Yeah. Okay, and then of course there are operational efficiency matters, right? So there are things like you need good infrastructure, definitely clean environment. Still, it's a manpower intensive industry, so not very automated. Your CFSs are still not very automated. It could help with better packaging. I think better packaging is something which is an area which LCL typically sees a lot of issue because the cartons do get transported for quite a long distance usually. So I think that's one area to be looked at. Better load planning, dispatch from factories. I think especially when it comes to LCL consolidation or buyers consolidation, our endeavor working with all the different multiple suppliers across India has been that how do you improve the packaging area in the factory and the quality of dispatch from the factory, because typically if you take a buyer's consolidation container, you might be stuffing for 10 different stores in the destination. So the customer expectation is you kind of stuff the cargo store wise and things like that. So depending on how the cargo arrives into the CFS, your efficiencies can be better, right? And I think the future is about transparency. I think definitely digitization has got a lot of importance there. I think the cargo consolidation segment is no different. Smaller order packs, smaller cargo lots, PO sizes are getting smaller. So which means people have, instead of ordering maybe once a month, maybe even there are daily orders which are coming out. So which means LCL and consolidation will continue to be there quite efficiently. I think product innovation will become key. Like for example, recently we were facing a challenge from North that there's not much of LCL cargo available for a full box. So to connect to the hinterland connect to the load ports for an LCL box was taking time. We were exploring with some of the LCL operators where can they look at a cube box. I think the cube is a smaller size container which can go on a domestic box. Maybe you can do a bonded trucking from an ICD in North to say a ICD in or a CFS in Mundra. So I think these are product innovations from a consolidation perspective will definitely have to be looked at. I think ICDs and the CFSs have a big role. Logistics parks, you can overall call them. Mr. Rohit spoke about, Rohit Hegde spoke about that. Of course, Mr. Shravan has experience from the bulk perspective, but I think even for cargo consolidation in general, I think the ICDs and the CFSs are a typical bridge. And I think where there we see the challenges are that definitely the export warehouse infrastructure, although I think the domestic space has seen a lot of quality of infrastructure improve. I think the CFS space is still catching up. There are some facilities which are new, which are put in modern processes, safety systems and things like that, but predominantly most of the other infrastructure is old. So when it comes to handling a global customer's cargo, it takes a lot of what I would say, polishing up to upgrade it to a certain standard. Automation, bringing about some amount of automation. I think traditionally we had laborers carrying cartons on head loads. At least that has moved to what I would call hand pallets or hand jacks. But I think the next level is to use movable nestainers and rackings, so that, and everything needs to be on forklifts. Like Sri Lanka is a good example, where Colombo also handles a lot of cargo LCL or buyers consolidation, but most of the operation is done using nestainers or fixed racks, which means your per square feet efficiency of warehousing is much better overall. Barcode scanning, RFID may be still quite forward looking, but at least barcode scanning, which means today if you look at a typical consolidation, you still do a lot of manual tally, you do still a lot of survey for whether it is receiving, put away, the container stuffing survey. There's a lot of manual work still being done on tally sheets and all. I think that needs to get automated, then things can definitely become better. So I think considering the warehouse where the consolidation happens in itself as a, not just as a cross-dock operation, but a full-fledged warehouse operation where there are different parts and efficiencies need to be brought in. I think that is very important trend to be looked at, and I'm sure some of the players like KSH who are coming up with new facilities are keeping this in mind. Sustainability, I think it is going to be the trend. Green logistics definitely is going to be the trend. I think one of the speakers initially spoke about this point, especially related to transportation, and sustainability is a topic which I kind of keep close to my heart. And the only thing I would always try to say is that when we talk about green logistics or sustainability, I think always there is this thought that it needs to be something big, right? I mean, when you talk about trucks, you straight away need to go to battery operated vehicles. Okay, government regulation is one side, but there are still options. I mean, you can do things in small ways. Indian Railway has tested, I think, biodiesel in a big way. The trucking industry can look at biodiesel in some way and try to explore. When it comes to compliances aspects, for example, right, whether it is any CFSs or ports or transporters, for example, if there's a trucking fleet, right, how many of the drivers are really on minimal wages? Do they have insurance? Do they have benefits like ESI? Same goes for CFSs and ICD. So I think small changes as far as sustainability or what you call compliance, health and safety requirements, even very small changes which can be done by each of the operators can, I think, at an aggregate level, bring about a lot of change, the way we are looking at things. That's it. Thank you. So it was a wonderful forum. Hope I was able to add some value, and look forward to continue the interaction.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Vipin. We will move on to our next speaker. I'm moving a little quickly because we're running short of time. Kindly excuse me. We'll move on to the next speaker for the day, Mr. Avishkar Srivastava. Mr. Avishkar Srivastava is the Chief Innovation Officer of the PDP Group and represents the third generation of the Srivastava family business. Under his young leadership, the company has recently been certified as a great place to work by the Great Place to Work Institute in India. The topic that Mr. Avishkar will talk to us today about is innovation as a tool to gain competitive edge. Well, we will listen to it from him. Mr. Avishkar, over to you.
Thank you, Deepa, and thank you to the entire team of Seatrade India for having such a wonderful conference. In logistics industry, as mentioned before, we have usually seen the senior pros giving their views, and it's great to have a platform for the youngsters also to share their views on the industry. I was given a very interesting topic, so I'd like to share a presentation. I hope the presentation is visible.
Yes, just go to
Yeah,
slideshow.
okay. So my topic is as a tool to gain competitive advantage. First, I would like to focus on how to be innovative, because we can always focus on the second part, which is how innovation helps in getting a competitive edge. But it's very important for especially young owners and
Sorry to interrupt.
youngsters coming into the management structure.
Would you
Yeah.
like to go to slideshow, so that the next text and we can read? You are still on the.
Okay. Is the slide visible?
No, maybe you can unshare and then share the slide screen. Yes, exactly. Right now it is fine.
Okay. Okay. So we are talking about first, how to be innovative. So we often talk about how innovation leads to competitive edge, but for youngsters and young people, young professionals getting into the top management position, the important question is, how can we be innovative? So in the logistics sector, we often hear in order to be innovative, you should get a storage business, or if you're in warehousing, you should look into complete transformation of all the into new services. So I would like to point out that innovation also means finding new ways to transform existing processes, where innovation is definitely required to create new services and to get involved into new modes. But at the same time, we need to look into our traditional services and traditional businesses as well, and see in which ways can we transform these existing processes using the tools which we have at our disposal. I would like to add the word sustained before competitive edge, because in the logistics industry where there is a huge competition, we can always be in a situation where people adapt. So what we really need as organizations is to have a sustained competitive edge, where innovation is really required to do that. Because as a logistics company, innovations, it is true, it may work and it may not work as well. There are not every innovation which is successful. But the one thing which we can be sure about is, unless we have the culture to innovate, that getting sustained competitive edge is very, very difficult. So as companies, we need to think of our companies as a learning organization, which means that there is a culture of learning from the top all the way to the bottom. Every employee, every person involved in the processes has a view of learning, of adding their roles and passing on those values to them. So organize adapting, using best practices from outside as well as internal operations, and creating a culture where this is always being challenged to get best out of the performance.
Mr.
As many
Avishkar,
speakers before me, even
can you just switch off your audio? It seems to have you seem to have a inconsistent connection. So if you switch off your audio, audio will be more clear maybe. For the timing, yeah. Just switch off your.
unable to do that right now. Let me. Am I audible now?
Yes, good. Yeah, now
Okay.
it's good.
Okay. So digitalization, it's a word which we are hearing, and we need digitization and effective human resource management through skilling, because this is the backbone of innovative companies. We can have the latest BS6 engine, we can have and under digital monitoring system and in the right channel. It gets very difficult to take full advantage of our technology. That we digitize effective as culture of learning. I had found one principle was really interesting, and this is the 1% principle of Charles Gardner, which says that if we are following a particular process and we are doing the same process throughout the year, the result is 1 to the power of 365, which is equal to 1. But just by adding that 1% more every single day, we are able to create a result which is over 37 times as productive as the initial result would have been. Similarly, by just slacking off a little bit every day and just getting an output which is 0.01%, 0.01 less, we are seeing that at the end of the year, we are getting very much left behind from our competition. So what is innovation? It is just small yet sustained steps which need to be taken for creating an innovative culture for competitive advantage. We need to be involved every single day, making the small changes sustainably and looking into all areas instead of thinking, okay, this area can be looked into later because it may not have a big impact. But gradually, over a period of time, the impacts begin to show to the world. I would like to end with my mantra for sustained competitive advantage. To have a culture of sustained competitive advantage, we need to ask questions. And it's wonderful that we ask questions from our customers. They are the most important people. We need to get client feedback. But are we taking the feedback from our vendors, from our employees, from our drivers who are involved in the daily operational process, who are the ones who are dealing with other members of the client group, who are dealing with other members in the company? This will really help us uncover trends to pinpoint the root causes of issues. Now, often we hear that when a problem comes up, we are really at that moment. But various times we hear once the problem is solved that, yeah, it's good that this problem happened because we were able to uncover some things like earlier also with the issue of the servers. So we need to have an attitude where the problem comes up. We need to, as leaders, have the attitude of saying good and then take up the matter further and try to inculcate a culture where people are not afraid when a problem comes up, but are very diligent in solving the problem, and at the same time they are looking for a process where they can they're looking for a process to come up with something good in order to solve this and change the system as well. Let's read about industry best practices, but let's not copy paste them. Many times we are seeing, okay, this company is doing very well, but okay, it doesn't fit in for our group or our company, so let's just ignore it completely. How about let's try to customize those industry best practices to suit what our companies need, and it will actually help us get an outward perspective along with the view of optimizing our operations. Finally, we need to create a culture where our stakeholders, which includes not just the customers, but our employees, our vendors, our drivers, and our workmen, who can think freely and give lots and lots of ideas. Let's have a culture where ideas are coming from all parts of the company around it as well. And we can create a culture which is the idea virus culture, where it's contagious and people who don't have ideas are feeling that they are getting left behind and will be putting an extra effort to give new ideas to the management, and the management can adapt them for gaining more competitive advantage through innovation. So that was my presentation. Once again, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Avishkar. Thank you for your presentation, and thanks for joining us as well. Please stay on with us. We'll before we wind up, I guess Mr. Harikrishnan Sundaram has, I think his internet connectivity and network issues are sorted out. So let me invite him back to start from where he stopped. So, Mr. Hari, is everything okay?
Hi, Deepa. Thanks. Yeah, sorry, challenges of working from home.
No problem. Absolutely happens.
Yeah, I'll keep it very quick. I think we are running short of time, so we can spend some quality time on questions and answers. So basically, backward integration in logistics for port operators. Yes, this is one of the most important areas that all port operators are now looking into. We have seen DP World, acquiring feeder companies, DP World acquiring CFSs and cold storage companies, basically expanding their footprint on the logistics. Then we have seen PSA also recently announcing that they want to be a solutions provider rather than just a terminal operator. We at Adani Ports also, we are looking at opportunities. We have done acquisitions in inland logistics. We acquired a company called B2B Logistics Solutions, basically a train company. So eventually what is happening is, the port and terminal operators have now started feeling that, they have to also go inland. They have to reach out to the customer. So this is a great opportunity, I would say, to collaborate with like-minded service providers. There will be some acquisitions, there will be some tie-ups, there will be strategic tie-ups. Of course, we can't forget the technology and the digital initiatives that are being done in the country. There are various startups. So there is opportunity there also for these startups to get associated with the port operators. And ultimately, the biggest question, which I think everybody should keep in mind, is that the person, the provider, or rather the service provider, or the company that owns the customer, that will be the key to the success of the logistics. We have seen shipping lines getting consolidated. Pre-COVID, we saw shipping lines getting consolidated. So there's a lot of pricing pressure from the shipping lines on the port operators. They talk of big volumes, they talk of long-term contracts. So ultimately, the port operators want to come and offer outside gate solutions. There are a lot of technology companies that we have been interacting with over the past few months, be it a transportation platform, whether it is Blackbuck or My Trucks, or whether it is Hinterland Solutions, Matchlog Solutions is a company that we are talking to. So I think the space is quite big, and there will be enough opportunities for everyone to give and or rather to value add. And at the end of the day, what we are talking is a unique customer experience and visibility and efficiency to the customers at the end of the day. So I would actually now I'll probably leave the floor open for questions since we're running short of time, and we can take it on from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hari. That was quite thoughtful of you, but we would really love to have heard more in detail on your presentation. But as you said, we can move on to the questions right now. Thank you all for patiently listening and patiently waiting for your questions to be answered. We do have some that has already come up. I will take it up one by one. And if you have any other questions among yourself, please feel free to discuss any points that any of the speakers have said as well. And while you consider that, let's move on to the question. The first question that we have right now is from Ritu to Mr. Rohit Bajaj. Mr. Rohit, are you here with us? Yes. Okay. So the question is, for the Sagarmala project, what are the next steps after the signing of MOUs? Is there any movement on the matter from the government's front?
Truly speaking, even in Sagarmala, we couldn't chase much for what shipments are moving ahead, but we could at least see few movements happening. And once government has took the project ahead, we also anticipate that there would be nice movements within the line inland waters. So for that, we have to wait. But no such aggressive movements we could see in Sagarmala project. Hopefully that was the clear answer.
Yeah, hopefully it's clarified. That was Ritu's question. Next is Mr. Sanjay and Rohit Bajaj. The question is, how can we optimize the cost of domestic truck freight when all other costs are rising? Yes, Mr. Rohit Bajaj, the question was to you.
Yes. It is not about that if all other costs are rising. We definitely we see that market is also rising the number in transportation freights also. Not significantly what it should be, but it is also into the other segment, other side of hike. But still, government, that's what I suggest, that let us shift to the coastal movements instead of going to the truck transports. Definitely it would be better option to shift over, because we see truck movements are getting very difficult these days. And coming time also, it would be harassment for the road movements rather to stay on that line. Rather we shift to sea. There's a wide sea. We have full coastal range.
Well, it's very smart answer on that. Thank you so much, Rohit Bajaj. The next question is from Mr. Subedar to Mr. Rohit Hegde. The question for Mr. Rohit Hegde is, what is the opportunity for national waterway for modal shift? And again, the second question again to Mr. Hegde is, what is the status of dedicated freight corridor east?
I'm not in a position to answer either of the questions actually.
All right. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else who would? What is the opportunity for national and state dedicated freight corridor east? Okay, we will probably move on. We will see if there are any answers to it. We will later respond to them. The next question is from Mr. Ravi to Mr. Vikram. But has Mr. Vikram left, or is he here with us?
I'm right here, please.
Yes, Vikram Lakhotia, yes. So the question is, hi Vikram, considering the vast market mentioned about coastal movement, why is coastal market still has only 3 to 4 shipping lines? What is making a new line foray into coastal shipping? I hope you got
what? Yes, I understand.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, it has been only the growth has only been in the last 4 to 5 years, and at the current trajectory, buying those ships at the moment are at 180% more expensive than what they could have been procured at earlier stage. So I think it is a wait and watch situation. There positively, once the ships would be back at the prices what it used to be earlier, I'm sure the shipping lines will actively go and purchase and increase their fleet. And I'm very positive that in the next 2 to 3 years, there will be more players visible in the market.
Sure. Hopefully that's answered the question. The next question is from Ritu to Avishkar. The question to Avishkar is, yes. Is there any word of advice for youngsters starting their career in logistics? Like what should they be focusing more on and anything of that sort?
Okay, for me, I guess for any youngsters entering the logistics industry right now, the thing which we need to keep in mind is that this industry is very dynamic and it's moving at a very quick rate because there are a lot of policy changes which are happening, and at the same time the government is paying a lot of attention right now to skill building initiatives in the sector. So if I have to give an advice, it is just to stay updated with the latest news and the latest notifications. Keep reading a lot because the industry is such that there are rules and regulations which we need to be more aware of, whether it's the CHA business or the freight forwarding or road transportation. So we need to be very active in how reading what we are reading about, and we need to network, we need to interact with more people to have a better understanding of the industry and to get the best practices from each other and adapt in a better way as a professional working in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Avishkar. Those were the questions that we had. If there are any questions among yourself, among the topics that you have discussed, if you want to interact on anything among yourself, we can take a few minutes for that as well. Or we can also work outside the call as well, but this would benefit the viewers. So is there anything that you want to discuss on, any of you?
Yeah, hi. I would like to actually post something to Mr. Vikram as well as Mr. Rohit Bajaj. I think the India-Bangladesh trade is we have business interests both in India and Bangladesh because we do handle a lot of apparel and ready-made garment shipments. And honestly, as a port, I mean, in terms of volume, Bangladesh has now overtaken India when it comes to ready-made garments. But But if you look at, is there a backup today for Chittagong port as an option? It's not really there, you know, although they've been working at, given the infra they have, they've been working at a very good efficiency. But when say global customers ask, is there a backup to Chittagong? I think some people have tried looking at Calcutta, you know, Haldia. I think I do understand there was a player who brought in a vessel all the way even up to Chennai as well, right? And I think the agreement which was signed, which I guess makes it more like a coastal move. So anything, and of course, you know, the whole Benapole Petropole border congestion, the number of trucks which move with all the goods into Bangladesh, and then, you know, a lot of raw material moving in there, automotive moving in there, a lot of ready-made garments coming back into India. What's really the status of the you know, the coastal or the sea route moves between you know, India and Bangladesh after all that agreements have been signed? You know, I thought maybe both of you have a view on that or an update on that.
I think Vikram to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I have actually received this. We've actually started receiving a lot of inquiries for this, but to be honest, initially SCI had taken the initiative, but until we get any stability in this route, I cannot commit my clients on this. So I know exactly what you're getting at, but this is more towards towards a liner division question than something which I could answer. So maybe Mr. Rohit could enlighten us over this. Yeah.
As far as for my experience, if you say me Bangladesh and if you say me rest of the world, I keep it both this. So one is Bangladesh and one is rest of the world. So when you have opportunities in rest of the world, why you want to go to Bangladesh?
Okay.
There is seriously, we have faced high risk dealings in Bangladesh, and that's why otherwise I was there, the one to initiate the movements for Haldia and Bangladesh with minimal carriers. Like government announced that Bangladesh and Haldia, Kolkata movements will be counted as in coastal movements.
Coastal,
So those days we wanted to initiate those movements, but we had a very bad experience with at least 2 shipments in Bangladesh. And then after we see the market is also still hesitating to deal with Bangladesh. Why you want to go Bangladesh? You have rest of the world.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great question, by the way.
Good question.
Vipin, this is Hari here. I just want to share something on this.
Yes,
because
Hari.
we as Adani Logistics, we have done you know, shipments to Bangladesh on the inland waterway route. Okay, so there is this inland India Bangladesh protocol route, IBPR, that is signed between both the governments, and it's a treaty. So we have done some shipments, and I should say that you know, see, there is a lot of potential. We had, you know, got a lot of inquiries, but the challenge is basically you know, the infrastructure. So in the river routes are not, you know, that well equipped, and so basically, you know, and these small vessels, they don't go to Chittagong, they directly go into Dhaka, they go into the river terminals of Pangaon, or the private you know, terminal of you know, Summit Alliance, which is you know,
SAPL. Yeah.
SAPL,
yeah.
But the disadvantages are that you know, the transit time is typically from, say, Calcutta or Haldia to Pangaon, it's about 8 days. Because there are frequent stoppages, you know, customs issues, you know, border crossing, no night navigation. So I think there is a lot to be done from the Inland Waterway Authority of India as a body. You know, though on one side we are building inland waterway terminals, right? I mean, you keep hearing about inland waterway terminal in Haldia, in Varanasi, in Sahibganj, blah blah blah. But you know, ultimately the river infrastructure is far more. You know, there needs a significant improvement. I mean, on one, so we had a lot of challenges. We did shipments. I mean, we did carry, you know, customers like Marico, customers like Tata Steel. Then we also did Arvind Mills. You know, these are all containerized shipments that I'm talking. But experience has not been that great, to be very honest.
I truly remember Mr. Hari's reply that even I met Captain A.K. Singh from Adani Group that is taking care of
Yeah.
Indian orders for the Bangladesh trade. And those days also we were discussing, it is horrible there. So that's why I put it, why Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is, if there is good customers available with you, that you basically need the support from the customer itself. The buyer, the particular company should be supporting you highly. There you can do the deal with Bangladesh. You're free to go.
Correct.
Otherwise, you can see that even liners are these days charging the Bangladesh. If you get a quote for Bangladesh, the destination terminal handling is also to be paid at the road port only. So they don't want to take the chance for the cargoes going there, and the rest of the time they're waiting for the LCs to be cleared and the containers getting free.
Yeah. Okay, thanks Hari. Thanks Hari for the update. Yeah, that was a good update as well. Yeah, I was aware Adani was, you were also there in working on it, but good to hear some trials were done. I think potential is there, and yeah, let's hope.
Potential is definitely there. I mean, I think Bangladesh and Northeast potential is definitely there, and that potential can be unlocked only if you have the, river routes to a decent, infrastructure. Otherwise, it will not take off.
Actually, for Bangladesh, is Avishkar here. There is one interesting development which has now started taking place. There are actually container rake movement now happening from Durgapur Strait. It's going to Bangladesh and it's reducing a lot of congestion. So it seems like this is going to be a thing for the future with Concor getting the connectivity at all the ICD CFS terminals. There is going to be more movement by rake to Bangladesh, which let's see how it comes up.
Yeah, you're right, Avishkar. I mean, Concor does run a train. It goes, it crosses the border at Benapol, Petrapol, and goes right up to a place called Jessore, which is about 35-40 kilometers inside. Right, but then when it comes to train, there are multiple handling. See, at the end of the day, it's about what the customer is paying. You can have different modes of transport, but when you start
because
talking
especially
numbers,
in the
when you talk about the costs and everything, so that's when the challenge is. The customer don't want to pay,
that is
but
true,
they want
that
their
is true.
goods to reach the place. So it's a chicken and egg. But having said that, I mean, yes, there are options available, multimodal, and there is a
Because now the
great
customers,
opportunity there.
especially in the Bangladesh region, like there's a big rice export which happens from West Bengal region to Bangladesh, and there after using the rake, once they have had such a good experience because of the lack of congestion at the border, they are like already
Yeah.
4 or 5 rakes have moved very quickly because of the turnaround.
Correct. I think we should ask Mr. Sudeep to organize a Bangladesh session separately for us. We can spend 1 hour talking about that.
That's true. I think maybe we can get in some folks from Concor and Railways also on.
Exactly.
If possible.
We can get Concor, we can get somebody from Bangladesh, Shipper Association and all those other guys also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sudhirji, I hope you've got that input and we'll hopefully meet for such a session. Well, gentlemen, there's just one last question before we wind up. Question is to Mr. Hari and it's posted by Mr. Manoj. So the question is from Manoj to Hari. What benefits is Adani Ports looking to gauge by engaging a few tech companies mentioned like Matchlog Solutions? Can benefits be enjoyed by larger stakeholders?
Okay. See, what we are trying to do with tech companies, especially like Matchlog, is we are trying to provide transportation solutions from our ports. So since we as a port operator, we are not into that domain yet, and we want to engage with companies who give that solution. So I think there is a great opportunity there. I keep telling this again and again. So we have worked with Matchlog for in our ports in Mundra and Hazira. We have worked with them for providing first mile and last mile to customers, and we have seen great amount of benefit there in terms of availability of trucks, giving the visibility to the end customer, possible little bit reduction of cost, which I will say very carefully. So yes, I think I would in fact urge the other startups and etc., whoever is listening on this forum, that this space of transportation is highly unorganized, right? So we have been speaking about this, and if companies can come forward and give a platform, give a solution, and if they work with the port operators very closely, then there is, and first mile and last mile is the key for an end-to-end product, right? So I think there is a large benefit to share. I hope I've answered it. If not, I think Manoj can engage with me separately.
Sure. Yes, definitely. The message is out there. So thank you so much. I guess with that, we have come to the end of the webinar. It was, when a few weeks back when we had Voice of Women in or Voice of Ladies in Logistics, we thought it was really interesting because they had very soulful experiences from their life that came up. And we thought no session could get more interesting than that. But I think this session was very close to it in the sense of there were real experiences coming. It's new ideas and new perspective and totally new ways of turning around things that were presented by many of you out there. And I'm sure there were a lot of takeaways for our viewers, which is the ultimate aim of any session. So thank you so much. And that was an absolutely wonderful webinar by all of you out here. And, they say that behind every successful man, there is a woman. But then they also say that behind every successful man, there are many unsuccessful years. So I don't know like which of these is true in your case, but in any case, I wish all of you a very successful career ahead. This was a session for young Turks in the logistics industry. So you're all still young. So as you grow older in your career, only in your career, in life, we never get old, right? So in your career, as you progress on, hopefully you will reach higher heights and there will be you will be able to conquer more in your own areas of expertise. Thank you so much for joining, ladies and gentlemen. I thank all the distinguished panelists, guests, as well as the participants for taking their time out and attending today's session. And I too, of course, had a great learning experience, as it is with all my India Seatrade programs. Everything teaches me something new. I hope all of you echo the same feeling. Once again, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Vansh Logistics, KSH District Park Limited, Seagull Group of Companies, Landmark CFS, and Pushpak Logistics Solutions for supporting and endorsing this initiative. So that's all from our end, gentlemen. All the ladies and gentlemen who've been listening to us live, I am Deepa Rahulishwar signing off. Have a great evening and a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.